We appreciate you. You're cool.
And now we're in the time.
The time. Hello. It's a little dark in the time. There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I was fucking with things. As Lucky
The
likes to
preview
do.
took a second. Anyway, yes, hello, team. We're here.
Behold, my remains.
Yeah, right there in your campfire.
Yep. Good job, me.
Ripperino. Well, good evening, squad. Hope you guys are ready for what will probably be a very filled episode of What's Up. Because it's a little bit of a busy news week.
A little bit.
Before we go anywhere, as Lucky wanders through the fog and or the mist, whichever one you prefer, I would really quick to remind everybody this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Adam DeHarp, Architect Timbugs G, Carlos Dragon Ferris, Jerry Vasquez, Just the Fate, Jonathan Sandoval, Jerry Boss Hunter, Raptor, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, Trevor, Empire, Tim Gunny Bob, and sorry, you think of Aaron the Crow. If you like what we do, see more, consider joining on Patreon. Sorry, I ran out of steam a little bit at the end there. My nose started to itch.
It did sound very silly.
It happens sometimes. But all right, we're here. Lucky is currently playing more Project Zomboid. Because, well, that was good. All right, okay. It's asking me with the audio bitrate. Chat, is the audio okay? You haven't complained, and it's been like 2 minutes, so it's probably all right. But YouTube did yell at me. Now we just wait for the great big lag to cycle around. All right, here, both of us. Lucky a little quiet, okay.
Oh, that's right. I actually turned down my microphone to hopefully help with some things. I should probably actually boost that on my end, actually, here.
Dial back up your gains.
My gains! Oh, that helps.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that helps. Team, squad, groups,
people.
It still says the audio stream bitrate is low. That's really weird. Because as usual with YouTube, it's not like, oh, it's low, like there's not a lot of it. It's like your current audio bitrate 0 is not enough. And I'm like, well, YouTube, they say the audio exists.
YouTube, why you be lying to us?
Ugh, sneezed. Okay.
Powerful.
Ugh. Yeah. All right, we're back. Okay. Like he's playing Zomboid. There was a very long and well-received stream of Zomboid earlier this week. If you somehow haven't watched it, but it's doing pretty good. So if you're here watching this, you probably have. But no, watch it again if you got 5 hours. Yes, there is still no game audio. I don't know if Lucky wants to do that for a podcast or not. But I know that we had the much futzing around with it. Hold on, I'm going to blow my nose after my sneeze. I kill my microphone when I do that, so you don't have to hear gross noises. But yeah, no. Pretty successful stream on Monday. This is not that server, I assume?
No, it's not.
Yeah, right. Because you did your dead body. Yeah. So, this is just our normal multiplayer server.
All right,
where we accrue many, many hours of stuff and things.
Yeah. All right, there. I tried boosting the game audio. Everyone let me know how it turns out.
Yes, we'll continue to adjust audio levels until people are fine. Doing all right. Been an okay week. Had a little bit of the ennui vibes, but that's kind of what happens when you go ham for a little bit on some stuff and then you drop off.
Mm-hmm.
Like early this week, I've got plenty to talk about because not only was there lots of news and stuff, but also I did some things. And then like the last couple days, it's kind of been like, ooh, okay, we're winding down now. But yes, this is our normal multiplayer server. Expect to see a decent amount of Lucky futzing around. This is the server where you adjusted the daytime rate.
Yeah.
So in-game days are what, a total of 6 hours?
Yes.
Yeah, and that includes, by the way, the night cycle as well, even though you knew through it. But we tried that out earlier this week with a decent number of us, and it's pretty fun actually. Like, everybody gets to actually like accomplish multiple things. You can actually take multiple trips outside of your house, fill your bags up, come back, rest, eat, whatever, and still have time to do things, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Also, it means that, as you can see, that Lucky is playing mostly solo, though Aaron is in chat and did say he would join the server. It also means that he's not, chewing through days when the rest of us aren't logged in.
No, yeah, I think between the time that I've been playing and you playing, there was like a 2-month in-game difference.
Yeah.
So.
But also, you may have caught this if you listened to Let's Talk FGO this week, but this is also the server where Lucky recently accidentally killed himself in his own fire. Which was referred to earlier in the stream.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a reset there.
Just a wee bit.
Do you feel the need to, the audience anyway, yell about the thing with the skill books?
A little bit. I'd have to go. Well, actually, I might as well head back.
Because I think I got a few good transitions from this one, but of course, when you yelled about it in the Tabletop Cabal, our secret gaming channels, I noticed it, but I don't know if, since we're playing Zomboid, we want to talk about Zomboid things.
Yeah, we can. Let me just, run through the fog.
Yeah.
I'm hungry anyway, so I need to run back home.
I have noticed you have done even more of your fort building.
Mm-hmm. I like building forts.
Yeah,
Where am I?
Pretty cool.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure just ahead the street.
Everyone will know my place because my fence is definitely not like any other fence. There we go.
Yep.
All right, so previously, I don't know why, I don't know how, but in me playing yesterday and me playing today, something happened to my books. So, like, here's books normally. They're like, for me, this is how they've always been. They've been numbered volume 1 through 5 all the way down. It's nice, it's easy, everything is well organized, it's really easy to fucking see. Now, I had a mod that let me get skill books for all skills, because normally they would only give you crafting and survivaling books. They didn't give you anything for the agility, combat, or
for your
firearm.
physical fitness or combat stuff.
Yeah, none of that stuff. So I picked up a mod for that, and for a while it operated on the same principle, volume 1 from 5. I come in today, and for some odd reason, like, if you just look, all the names have been changed to Advanced Spear, Advanced Sprinting, Aiming for Beginning, Aiming for that. And that wouldn't bug me so much if it wasn't for the fact that the way that they named them is literally not consistent with itself. Like, yeah, you see here, this is Advanced. Advanced is the 3rd tier of book. It's at the top now. All of them are at the top now. And then we go alphabetical here for some odd reason for Aiming, Axe, Blunt, 1 and 2, which are the 1 and 2. And then we go to Expert here, which is the, the tier 4. Going down here, but then we got Fitness for beginners and intermediates again. It's like, it is completely and utterly borked for organization. And that...
Yeah, the auto-sorting is very fucked now, it seems.
Yeah, no, and there's nothing I can do about it. Literally nothing I can do.
I have seen, like, in-game already, the masonry books were already formatted like that, for instance.
Yeah, but
I have seen at certain points of the game that is how they are handled with those, like, subtitles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. Like organizationally, God, our bookshelves are going to be a horrible mess now too. Like organizationally, just replacing it with 1 through 5 because it's every your skills go from 0 to 10, so every 2 skill levels is 1 level of book.
Yeah.
Just labeling it 1 through 5 and then having it be, farming volume 1, farming volume 2. That meant that everything sorted very neatly, and it was very easy for us to track what books we had and did not have.
Yes.
Which we may or may not have completed because we still, even though we've been in this server for like 3 months, and like literally last time I logged in, Lucky threw a book bag full of books at me, just all the spares he had. We still don't have 100% book coverage. Like Axe was making a very long list, I think, last time, and I think we still have like 20 books on it. It was a lot. So definitely some cause for annoyance there. I hope they either switch it back or we just get everything on the same page mod-wise.
That's what I'm hoping for.
But okay. As always, stay tuned for many more Zomboidenen. But I think, given how foggy everything is, and, general zombie vibes, this is a pretty good point to jump off into something that I think a lot of people will probably be aware of, be jazzed about, be knowledgeable of. And I don't want to say it's out of nowhere. It is, the week-ish before Halloween. Technically, you got a couple of days before it's actually a week, but you know what I mean. But some major horror franchises, some of the big names in the survival horror field, have actually, come back and had basically little stream pressers this previous week. We had what did they call it? Did they call it Silent Hill Transmission?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the Resident Evil Showcase. So yeah, Konami actually wanted to remind you that they make games that are not just Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel.
And soccer.
Mm-hmm. And yes, apparently soccer games. Though God knows what kind of money that makes them. That's like, if you ever wonder why for a solid 10 years EA tried to jam loot boxes into everything, it's because they did it for their FIFA games, which were phenomenal bestseller, infinite money printers, and EA, I'm sure their board of directors was just bamboozled every single time that well, this works for FIFA, why doesn't this work for everything? But we've been through that discussion many a times. But yeah, so first up, Konami actually trotted out some production value for Silent Hill, which is a franchise that after the canceling of Silent Hills, because Konami finally... I actually don't even know if we really know what exactly was going on. I guess they got tired of Kojima's kind of auteur style, because he is, very idiosyncratic and very specific about a lot of things in the games and the way he does them. You'll see him talking about this on Twitter a lot. When Death Stranding Director's Cut was announced, he spent quite a bit of time on Twitter talking about how that was absolutely Sony's marketing push to call it the Director's Cut, because it's not really a Director's Cut, because that implies that the publishing studio already had somehow altered his final product, and that really wasn't how Death Stranding went. Fun fact, this may be relevant to future discussions, but I believe the term Director's Cut originates with Blade Runner and Ridley Scott, in that the Director's Cut of Blade Runner, which was marked as the Director's Cut, was actually his different cut of the film. Usually considered the better version, a little more artistic, because the original version had extra VO and cut scenes to try and rebalance the beginning and ending and make it more palatable to the general audience. It didn't work. The original Blade Runner is definitely a cult hit movie. Obviously, a lot of people think of it as a classic now for all its design elements, but when it came out, it did not go over super great with the wider audience and didn't make a huge amount of money. I'm not even sure it broke even originally. So yeah, if Kojima is that kind of guy who just won't shut up about something that's really harmless with his publisher. God knows what he was like behind closed doors at Konami, because they were real big into babysitting him and the money. And obviously, like, they did a lot of terrible workplace abuses to the Kojima production staff too, like keeping them around all the time, and a lot of like old school Japanese office work stuff, you know, where everything is seniority based and so on. I think there's even some stories about like the OG Silent Hill and stuff being in that vein as well. Like they had one guy take over as the lead animator for cinematics, and they tried to assign him a supervisor who didn't have like any more experience in that than he did, and he just ignored his supervisor, and Konami was eventually just like, all right, fine, the product is good, we'll stop trying to shoehorn our corporate culture. But yeah, so Silent Hill's basically been dead since Silent Hills was canceled when Kojima left the product. Basically has sworn Guillermo del Toro off working heavily in video games ever again. Not personally, though, I gotta say, the way he says it anyway, and I don't know if I haven't read his exact remarks in a while, but the way he said that is just like, it's a terrible shame, like how video games can just be canceled out of nowhere. Dude, you make movies. Literally the same. They'll cut a movie for any old thing. Or sit on it. Video games are often the same way. But they did have the transmission, and they rolled out a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The big one that everybody kind of knew was coming, and, you know, has kind of got people in... The general vibes I've gotten online as people are kind of trepidatious is Silent Hill 2 Remaster. That is being handled by another studio, Bloober Team. And I believe this is why some people have some concerns. Bloober has kind of a middling track record, I think. You know, like, Silent Hill obviously has a lot of history with these kinds of heavy-hitting psychological horror stuff throughout its games, you know? And so a lot of people are concerned maybe that the Bloober remake might be a little unsubtle. They're doing, like, remastered cutscenes and re-recorded dialogue and stuff. Some people also have complained that one of their previous games, The Medium, does not necessarily handle, like, mental health issues in the coolest and most modern way. It is the Medium is free on PS Plus now on Extra if you want to check it out. That got added this month. I also assume this is probably where this relationship comes because, hey, guess what? Silent Hill 2 is going to be PS5 exclusive. Presumably timed. It will be coming to Steam and Epic and whatever, I'm sure, in about a year. But yeah, console exclusive and time-gated exclusive to the PS5. I'm going to guess that probably is part of Sony's ongoing business negotiation with Konami and Bloober even. So if you want to see what's up, go for it. I have no previous association with Bloober or even really with Silent Hill. Like, I've seen some gameplay from some of the games over the years. But I've never played them myself, so as usual, I don't really have a dog in this race. But as far as remakes go, they got a lot of stuff, and they kind of talk the talk, you know? We don't really want to, you know, futz with too much, you know, want to keep the same story beats, but make sure we can give you more, you know, graphical fidelity or whatever. They've talked a little bit about trying to improve, like, gameplay and combat segments, and I've heard that some parts of the original Silent Hill 2 are kind of clunky and frustrating in that regard, so, like, just streamlining the gameplay is probably cool. Old school survival horror games can be very janky in the combat department, and it's not always part of the experience, you know? But even so, that's still, like, hey, they're remaking Silent Hill 2, so they're doing, you know, a classic.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. And they've got a few other little things that they talked about as well. They've got another license the IP to an outside party. What was that called? Townfall?
Yes.
Yeah, there was no real details on that, just an announcement. But yeah, they're working on that game. They are making a sequel to the Silent Hill movie. The first Silent Hill movie adaptation from '06. Probably the original director and producers and stuff, working very heavily with Konami to get a lot of the designs and stuff going. This one's pretty interesting. I haven't heard people really yelling about it online, but it seems like an interesting one. I actually did a little bit of reading in the middle of the stream about the Silent Hill movie.
Yeah.
Because I know you were like, wow, that seems, it's been a lot of time. Are people actually hyped for a sequel? The general ethos is the movie seems to have been received very mid, as the kids say. But I read some quotes from the reviews, and I haven't seen the movie, and I'm not very familiar with the original Silent Hill, so I can't really comment on how exactly, but it sounds to me like the original movie adaptation of Silent Hill was a little too true to the games, in the sense that they tried to actually cram all of the game's plot into about 2 hours of screen time, which doesn't really work, and that generally left a lot of reviewers with very normie video game adaptation opinions, where they're just like, yeah, there's way too much storytelling and I don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like Silent Hill. That sounds like we tried to compress... Chat, do you happen to know the time to beat on Silent Hill 1? I'm going to guess it's probably like 10 or 15 hours, because it's a PS1 game.
I think I beat it in like 2 sittings, I think.
Yeah, probably like a 10-hour game, maybe. Or an 8 to 10. Still, trying to compress that down into like 1.5 to 2 hours, you're going to have some problems. So, yeah, they probably needed to pare that down a little and, loosen it up. And we'll see if they do that with the next one. But like I said, I think people were... Compared to the bullshit that was happening in the mid to early 2000s in video game adaptations, Silent Hill sounds like a very faithful attempt at adapting the source material.
I mean, I remember, because I went to go see that in theater, and I thought it was all right, but I didn't necessarily think anything of it.
Yeah, like I said, it sounds like to a lot of people it was just kind of mid.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was all right.
But, they got the director wanted to do more, I guess, and Konami was like, sure, have the IP. We don't give a fuck. Konami is like, is this a collectible card game or a pachinko machine? Can we turn collectible card games into pachinko machines?
If there isn't a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Pachinko machine, I'm going to be very, very, very surprised.
Well, I mean, they... at several locations, I believe Konami has built actual, like, arcade machine-type Yu-Gi-Oh! Simulators, which can give you real cards. That was the dual terminal thing they did about 10 years ago. So, they've tried. Oh, they've tried. But yeah, so that was another one of their big ones, and then they kind of ended the night on a couple of interesting notes. The first one was... Oh gosh, what did they even call it? Ascension, I think? Silent Hill Ascension?
Something.
The Ascension announcement is the, like, weirdest, most Web 2.0 metaverse, parasocial internet thing I think I've heard of in a while. I'm just glad they didn't talk about using AI algorithms or NFTs, right? Like, that's about the level of how bleeding edge, stupid modern we are. So, as far as I can tell, Silent Hill Ascension sounds like they're trying to do Twitch Plays Silent Hill. It is going to be done in association with the guys who do Dead by Daylight, which is, a pretty good pull. But it is not going to be a video game you play in a traditional sense, but it will be like it sounds like anyway, a one-off interactive story experience where the audience will make decisions in kind of a, broad democratic choose-your-own-adventure way, where there is no, according to them, there is quote-unquote no established canon, no character is safe kind of a thing, and just like, we're going to see who lives and who dies and what ending we get based on what people on the internet say. So, On the surface, that sounds pretty cool, pretty cutting edge, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody has been predicting these kinds of, you know, truly interactive stories. But also, you're going to do it on the internet. So I'm pretty sure literally every character will die in the dumbest ways.
Yeah, no. The internet
Like-
is gremlins.
Yeah, the internet is gremlins. Like, obviously, I think they can probably curate some of this by not giving you dumb choices, but I feel like it's not a survival horror game if there aren't dumb choices.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be shit like, do you stick your hand in the bear trap? Twitch would be like, yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. And then you shove your hand in the bear trap, and then you're fucked. Like, that's... Like, if you've seen the dumb shit people can do on streaming and whatever on, watching Until Dawn and stuff, right?
Right.
Like, just imagine that with the public audience in a one-and-done story, it sounds like. So we're gonna see. It'll be interesting for sure. But then they capped it off, and I think some of the materials for Silent Hill F and/or Flat. I don't think they actually said the name out loud, so who the fuck knows? It is definitely like a musical notation for like Flat, but also you can never really tell with Japanese game names. You know, 358/2, etc., etc. Remember when Final Fantasy 15 was named Versus 13? as if that would have made sense. But yeah, so they rounded out with probably the bigger announcement. They are actually making a brand new Silent Hill game. This one does appear to be headed up mostly by Konami internal studios. I don't think they announced any partners. It will be written by the author of was it Uminoko? One of them famous Japanese horror visual novels I've never read. It was either Higurashi or it was Uminoko. I don't remember. Was it written by the same guy? It might be both.
Yeah, about to say, I think the same guy wrote both of those.
It could be. I'm not sure. Again, most of this is like when they said story by, you know, some Japanese game developer type name, you know, like the same in the same style as Suda 51 and whatever. It is both? Okay. Like, people on the internet were like, oh, it's that guy, and they, like, say different names, and I'm like, yeah, is that the same guy? I don't know. Anyway, that's got people in certain J-horror circles hyped. The trailer was suitably gross. And honestly, it's kind of interesting, like, you know, not to toot this horn too much, but I've worked my way through most of Grimbeard's back catalog. There's definitely a lot of influence in, especially the more psychological, early Japanese horror games. Like a lot of those are really heavily drawn from American psychological horror shit, like exactly Twin Peaks. So, like, I think that's why a lot of the like groundbreaking Japanese survival horror, and not all of it. Fatal Frame, for instance, very Japanese. But like games like Silent Hill and possibly even like Resident Evil, like they're so Americanized because that's the influence that the authors were coming from. You know?
Yes.
This was before the reverse happened, and Americans were like, "Damn, dude, J-horror movies are the best. We're gonna adapt The Ring and The Grudge, shittily." Maybe not The Ring, but the Grudge adaptations in America did not do nearly as well as the original. Pretty sure I saw parts of the original deal on The Grudge on like cable TV once. It was pretty freaky and gross.
Gross.
Lots of water stuff. Lots of stagnant water in The Grudge. Very goopy. But yeah, so a Japanese-themed Silent Hill has, as far as I know, not really been done before. And as seen with, like, even arguably more action-oriented games like Tokyo Ghostwire, but definitely with other, you know, Japanese ass horror games like Fatal Frames and stuff like that. There's a lot there to the classic Japanese ghost story.
Mhm.
And like I said, the trailer anyway for F is like really greebly and gross.
Very.
If you have tryptophobia, the fear of tiny holes in things, do not watch that trailer. That is like 40% of that trailer. So yeah, that will probably be a thing. Like, I don't want to say it's going to be good, but people seem much more comfortable being excited for F than the Silent Hill 2 remaster.
Well, yeah, it's new blood.
Yeah. And the writer is, tried and tested. We're going back to some of the original studio. And like I said earlier, Konami was not necessarily lowballing this presentation, right?
Right.
Like, so there was a little bit of a funny commentary in that Konami didn't realize that you can only premiere 2 videos on YouTube at once. So they tried to set up to premiere all 5 versions because they had like 5 different language tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of them were just dumped straight to public instead of premiering.
Mm-hmm.
Which, okay, yeah, that's a little bit of an L for them. But like the actual video production values were very high. They had multiple sets, they had in-person guests. I did not recognize her, but they apparently got like a commentator who is a fan of Silent Hill to come in and do like MC duties and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They had some video messages from people. Some were just scripted. Like I remember they got a quote from J.J. Abrams. I think that was for Ascension because his studio Bad Robot was involved. And I'm just like, I see J.J. was too busy to show up for a Zoom call. Listen, if Chris Pratt can literally phone it in on Zoom for, like, the trailer drop for the Super Mario Brothers movie, JJ, you can do that for Konami. It's okay. But you were too busy. I understand. I don't know what the fuck you're doing these days. But trying to look like less of a nonce after, bungling Star Wars. I said it. Fight me, JJ Abrams. Preferably by throwing your millions of dollars at me. But, like I said, they still had some decent production value, like, multiple sets, good guests. They actually got some of the old school Silent Hill guys who are still there back. I think they talked about how they're having, the classic series music composer do a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, as usual, with video games, y'all, I would like to advise you not to be overly hyped. Keep it cool. Be real. Be reasonable. Be realistic. This is Konami we're talking about, and as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I have, very distinct mixed emotions for how Konami, both in Japan and their American branches, their international branches, handle shit like the consumer and game design. But, like, they're talking the talk and they're walking the walk. It seems like they are definitely invested in bringing back this franchise.
Yeah.
Which is something you can't say about all of Konami's franchises. Metal Gear Solid. I'm still waiting for that day. I'm just waiting for them to announce. Because I think you figured out that they actually did remaster some Metal Gear Solid 3 cutscenes just for a new pachinko machine.
They did. It was horrible. I mean, it was good, but it was like, why?
God, if you're gonna go to that level, just fucking redo the friggin'... Just do the game again. Just do Metal Gear Solid 3, sustenance or whatever. Because in case Metal Gear has a bad habit of terribly dumb subtitles that I'm sure Kojima thought sounded cool, but were not. And we actually you did some digging in this yourself, and I asked some questions. But Konami does apparently still own Kojima's Productions Fox engine. What Ground Zeroes and Metal Gear Solid 5 were done in.
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant video game engine. Like, we can shit talk. Well, I don't know if we'd say shit talk. We can be tragically disappointed by how very clearly unfinished 5 is. But you can't say about that the gameplay engine was tight. Very solid gameplay. If you could reapply that to old Metal Gear games for the full remake treatment, that'd be pretty pretty good, pretty keyno, I would say. And I think, honestly, starting with Metal Gear Solid 3 would make sense, because that is chronologically the earliest in the franchise.
Yeah.
So that could be a good way to, like, be like, okay, guys, here it is, Metal Gear Solid. We had some licensing problems, and, you know, I'm sure any little changes to anything really will probably be, like, very loudly decried by Kojima on Twitter. Because, as I said, he is a little bit of an auteur. He really likes his games to be made very specifically. But I think it'd be a really good one. That, and just don't change anything about Metal Gear Solid 4. Just up-res it and release it on a PS4 and 5, please. Thank you. Goodbye. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, Konami. But yeah, so, like, the vibes for Silent Hill seem okay. Not a big Silent Hill guy, like I said. I've had a little bit of interest in some of the series,
so
but
I've played. I think I can say I've played a fair bit.
Yeah. You know, it'll be interesting to see. But speaking of games that I am much more of, I think, a lightweight fan of, I have not put a lot of hours into playing Resident Evil games, but I have watched a fairly decent amount of gameplay from them. But literally was it the next day, or was it 2 days later?
Next day.
Yeah. Capcom was like, yo, Resident Evil Showcase.
Here we go.
We're going to hit you with the big times. And they did. I mean, like, I think both presentations had kind of their, they had a few of what I would call kind of their, you know, the usual marketing talking points, like about the Silent Hill movie and even about some of the other stuff like Ascension. Several people who were real life humans were like, oh, you know, there's a difference between watching a scary horror movie at home and then going to the theater and being scared with everybody. And I'm like, okay, guys, you're not going to get me to go see the Silent Hill movie in theaters. That's not going to work. Usually I, like, go to movies with, like, my parents. I'm not dragging them with Silent Hill. I don't want to go to Silent Hill and be, like, freaked out with a crowd. I much prefer to be freaked out in the comfort of my home. That's much more existentially terrifying. But, you know, tomato type stuff. And the thing that I think the Resident Evil thing did that was kind of like their version of that was, man, they really want you to be okay with cloud gaming, y'all. We're putting all of our games on the Switch on the cloud. You can enjoy them wherever. But we're going to give you a free demo so you can test to make sure it works. Now, they phrase it as if, like, the demo for all of these Resident Evil games that are going to be on cloud, which is starting with 8, I believe, is the first thing they're going to do, but they're going to roll out, like, RE3 and 2 remakes and 7 as well on Switch on cloud. The way they phrase the demo is, like, so that you can feel comfortable that cloud gaming is good for you. Like, you can make sure that your network environment is fine and you'll be reassured. And I'm like, it's so you can test to make sure it works. Because, like, honestly, again, the Resident Evil thing was mostly handled by people in Japan, like, on stage and stuff. In Japan, I'm sure the cloud stuff is probably more reliable. Japan is a lot more densely packed, and their infrastructure with the internet has always been more reliable than ours in the States. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before, but they had, you know, internet-capable, downloadable cell phone games in, you know, the mid-2000s on flip phones, which is pretty wild if you think about it. But, like, here in the States, I have lived in a lot of rural and suburban areas where the wireless connectivity and stuff like that, and even regular internet, has not always been the most reliable and high speed. And I do not know if I would trust streaming gameplay back and forth, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Hell, there are times when, like, if I want to get fucking phone calls or text messages, I gotta, like, stand by my window and hold my phone up, you know? Old school shit. Because, you know, we live in the middle of the suburbs in the backwoods. Do be how it be. But other than, like, they kept, you know, mentioning the cloud thing, I think Resident Evil also had a banger of a presentation. They started off pretty strong. They're releasing what they're calling Gold Edition of RE8. This includes a new third-person mode. So you can play the game fully in third person. Originally, 8 was first person, just like 7. And they talk about how that's like more immersive and direct. But they also talked about how first person can give people like motion sickness, or players may actually, you know, be too freaked out to play in the first person experience.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, definitely. Like some first person games are like really stressful. Like that's how I feel about Alien Isolation, for instance. The fact that it's first person and like your field of view and senses is so limited is part of why I find that game just so anxiety inducing. Because I know that motherfucking alien's coming. But they've allowed the third person, which can give you a little you know, broader perspective, push you back a little, let you, you know, hopefully get less motion sick. They did talk about how they made sure to code it so that if you try to look at Ethan's face, he will look away from the camera. You know, because obviously in first-person mode, you can't see his face, so they try to keep some of the vibes. I think that's funny. Just a cute little touch they didn't have to do.
Mm-hmm.
There is a free update to their Mercenaries mode that was in 8, so the multiplayer mode. They did some, you know, balances and fine-tuning for people and stuff. Seems fun. I know Mercenaries modes have been pretty popular for previous Resident Evil games. Don't know anything about 8 specifically. And then also they are adding a DLC starring Ethan's daughter, Rose, who is, you know, kind of a MacGuffin in 8, if you remember from all the trailers and stuff. So this is her, you know, at 16 years old. Apparently with, you know, weird laser light show powers.
Very confused about that.
I mean, sometimes we forget because it feels like such a classic horror game that Resident Evil really is just about, you know, bioweapons in human form sometimes. It do be like that. I assume that's kind of the vibes we're going for, but it also might be psychological. They talk about, like, the realm of consciousness or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
having not played 8 myself, I can't really, like, figure out what in the context this is supposed to mean. And chat, if you explain this, I will time you out. I am not asking for an explanation. I'm asking to be confused. Do not disabuse me of this notion. I will destroy you. I will spin kick you out of this chat. But anyway, still pretty interesting that they're doing all of this. And they've got a, you know, pretty robust set of features there. I'm trying to remember what was the middle bit.
Nah, he's getting his Leon Kennedy on.
Yeah. Hold on, let me mute this site and double check this game. So they had some pre-release stuff. Honestly, this was such a short and direct banger that I'm kind of sad that like it was just Resident Evil, even though obviously point, because like Capcom does have some pretty solid games coming out, y'all.
It was actually fun a bit before the stream because Capcom actually had a bunch of what I can only call commercials going on, talking about a bunch of stuff.
They had a like a 30-minute sizzle reel basically, showing off like Monhun stuff,
Street Fighter, all their game collections. Jesus, I
Yes.
think there was like an arcade collection, a fighting game collection.
Yeah.
The Mega Man Battle Network.
Yeah, the Battle Network collection is next year.
It was just like, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to say it took them a little bit to get to this area of their business, but I really appreciate like current Konami's kind of business model. It kind of reminds me of like what Square Enix is doing these days as well, right? Where like they're like, okay, we have a lot of old games that we know you love, so we're gonna like bundle them or remaster them and sell them to you on your modern hardware because, you know, playing some of these games can be hard, especially for like arcade games and stuff, right? Shit that was only on arcade cabinets. Kind of a thing, you know? Or were last put on collections on like the SNES and so on. But also, they're like, yo, but new games. You want some new shit? We got that for you. Street Fighter 6. Keep trying to sell you on the dinosaur game that everybody thinks is hilarious. You'll probably be
Exo
alright.
Primal.
Now, Street Fighter 6 looks fucking rad. Okay, so let me skim through the actual showcase here. You got the DLC. You got the. Oh, right. Yes. They actually announced another fun little thing. They've got like a reverse Resident Evil. You called it basically Resident Evil: The Division, which is kind of what it looks like. It's a little the third-person action camera is a little tighter than that. But it looks basically like tactical multiplayer Resident Evil. Like you get looks like 4-man co-op. You've got all the classics you'd expect from a modern, kind of because they did announce that Reverse will be free to play with no additional cost if you already own Village.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna have rolling content updates. So they've got like skins, so you can be like Leon, Jill, Ada Wong, Chris Redfield, or you can just be generic zombie cop man. Looks like they've got a wide variety of classic bosses from all the different games for you to fight and like wave-based stuff, and all the other cosmetic bullshit. So seems neat. Resident Evil has actually had some good co-op experiences over the years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say that's kind of the best thing about 5.
Oh yeah.
Mercenaries modes are pretty funny. Yeah, no, they haven't. Ace Attorney is sadly one of the franchises that they still haven't touched on, but don't give up hope. Remember, Battle Network kids were like, fuck, man, we don't got nothing. Like, they released like 6 of these games, and some of them are in a pretty bad state. They're only on the Game Boy Advance, and then they're like, all right, boom, collection, all of them, go. Don't give up hope, kids.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. I pray that they will get there eventually, especially because I feel like, Great Ace Attorney collection was pretty successful. So was the trilogy. That reminds me, I believe that's on sale for like another week on PSN. I need to make sure to buy that for the future. The original Ace Attorney trilogy. Yeah, okay. So the next bit was after Reverse was they talked about the. Oh yeah, this one was much more compact than Silent Hill. Yeah, it was just they did the cloud version after Reverse, and then it's just all 4.
Yep.
Oh, and they went hard on the RE4 remake stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, when we saw it earlier this year, it was just like a teaser trailer. This is like full out. This is gameplay and story trailers. Like, and they really showed what they're doing with the remake. And I think once again, it sounds like Capcom is walking the walk and talking the talk on this, because this is not just a straight up remaster of 4, right? Like, they don't need to do that. 4 was on everything. This is actually having redesigned areas, new mechanics, new story beats and cutscenes and stuff. Your interactions are different. You can, break free without using a knife now if you're grabbed, or you can use a knife for an instant break free. The thing that's got everybody on the internet talking, you have a knife, a little durability bar. You can now use that for a new parry, which, again, considering this is 4, we're leaning even more into the action elements. We made a couple of jokes when the stream was going about window, because, Leon Kennedy has iron ankles. He jumps out of 2-story windows and doesn't afraid of anything.
Yep.
But like in the gameplay trailer they show, the big thing is he parries a chainsaw with his knife. And everybody was like, whoa. All right. Okay.
Getting rules of nature in
We're
this
doing
shit.
it. Yeah. Similarly, that's, the joke I made earlier about the spin kick. Like, he's got some pretty dynamic kicks and stuns in there. While they do have the quick weapon menu, they did explicitly bring back the attaché case.
This pleases Lucky very much.
They went out of their way in this presentation to make the merchant a selling point. Like, they give him a little mini trailer in there to hype him up. What are you buying?
Listen, we saw that everyone just started doing fucking merchant quotes.
Yeah, no. And I mean, like, that's how you know he's iconic. The fact that, like, 1, they hype him up, but also 2, once they hype him up, everybody buys into it. Like, everybody's down to clown on this. And just in general, that, I think, is the vibe of RE4, remake. Everybody's down to clown. Now, as usual with video games these days, they do have the wide variety of, crazy different versions you can buy. There's a baseline version. There's the deluxe version, which comes with basically a deluxe DLC pack that you can probably also buy separately. It gives you some, like optical filters, some different costumes. Some of which come with different costumes for Ashley as well that are hidden. Extra guns and stuff. The deluxe version also comes with a soundtrack swap. You can play either their new orchestration or the original. And then they have a collector's edition, which is the whole 9 yards. Game, steelbook, deluxe DLC pack, mini soundtrack, art book. There's a little poster map. There's a hard case, and there is the Unkennedy statue.
Yeah, it's $2.99 though, so I was all like, okay, I did want this, but now I don't.
Yeah, no, that's... I know you and several people were very hyped, but the possible price tag, and it's like, yeah, it's a lot of cool stuff, but damn, that expensive. I mean, it's got a, like... It comes in a literal suitcase, like, box, and it comes with, a freaking, statuette figurine, which looks pretty highly detailed and stuff. I can understand, but damn, guys. That said, I still think a lot of people are excited for the deluxe edition, even.
Oh yeah, no.
Like,
totally.
I think I might even pick up the deluxe edition, which is saying something for me. But it seems fun. You get extra guns, extra costumes. Dick around with filters. They have some pre-order bonuses, of course, and I love how just they do these little things. Like the pre-order bonuses they've shown, for instance, are you get different skins and charms to customize your attaché case. You can pimp the attaché case.
This is important.
Literally,
right?
because the regular pre-order bonuses, you get the gold-plated case. And if you pre-order the deluxe or collector's edition, you get the classic case or like the herb. And then they show a story trailer at the end. But yeah, no, they're doing stuff. It's pretty neato. And in general, you and I have talked about this a little bit, but we have talked on the channel before a lot about streaming Resident Evil games. Because those are very popular and I think very streamable. I think our stream schedule for basically the rest of this year is pretty locked up. Monday, we should be starting Plague's Tale Requiem, which looks like it's going to be a fun time. And then probably by the time we finish that, it will be time for me to get started on Dad of Boy 2, which will be out. My pre-order is already set in. Everything is fine. So we'll be moving on to that one. God knows how long that's going to take us, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows exactly how long the game is to beat yet. Because while reviewers do have their early copies, I don't know if any of them have copped to finishing the game yet. And then, like, presuming that doesn't wipe out the rest of the year for us, obviously there are more Great Ace Attorney cases to get to, but I could easily see us doing something like either the whole game or maybe parts for filler of either Callisto Protocol or Dead Space Remake is also not that far behind. Which would obviously be very, very interesting for us, considering you did actually post some original Dead Space footage on the channel, even if it's not of the bestest quality. We were learning, guys. But next year, I do think, and Lucky said he's okay with this, I want to commit to, we're going to do some Resident Evils. I believe 7 is free on the PS Essentials collection. I don't remember if 8 is on PS Plus yet. But that one shouldn't be too hard to swing. And who knows, maybe we'll throw 4 in there as well, because that's obviously got a lot of people very excited and is very cool. And we are both interested in playing it, so seems like there's a lot of fun to be had there.
Yeah.
So, if you like Resident Evil, good for you. It's going well. Let me scratch this off. I have to take a quick break, so I will pause the audio and be right back. But then we still have handfuls of stuff to talk about as Lucky sorts his inventory.
I did.
Also, yes, that's true. Was it RE4?
Yeah.
Yeah, you streamed original RE4 on the channel as well. I think those archives are still up.
It should be.
I don't remember all the stuff we did. We have actually occasionally trimmed some of our crappier clips and videos out. But yeah, so that would also be a good follow up as well with RE4 branding, identity, deep lore. Though I don't know how deep the lore is if people are like, wait, didn't you stream RE4 a while back? And they don't like remember really, but you know, still, it's a callback. And generally, I think the audiences like spooky game streams because it lends itself to the, you know, the emotional suffering and catharsis. But also now you'd get to see Lucky do spin kicks and knife parries. All right. Anyway, like I said, I do have to go for a second and pause.
You
so
can do
right
spin
back.
kicks in the first one. The first time.
Yeah. Spin kicks and knife parries, though.
True.
And who knows what other nonce, foolish things. All right, I'll be right back.
Don't mind Lucky in Project Zombie right now. I am trying to work and get some semblance of my original skills back, so I'm working on that. Oh, excuse me. Oh, my cooking's down. Is that too? I think that's enough. Alright, what I need to do is I need to read more books. Yay!
Books.
I need to read sprinting and tailoring.
All right.
Probably cooking gear.
I'm back. I'm unpausing. I did take a gander at that new music for Scarlet and Violet. It's pretty good, pretty jazzy. Okay. Well, you know, if we're talking about callbacks, that's a pretty decent segue to if we want to, because last week we talked about the hubbub and hullabaloo about Bayonetta.
Yeah.
As we cautioned in that episode, as time has gone on, facts have evolved.
Yep. I don't remember exactly when in the week, but
It was pretty early.
it was pretty early. It was definitely like, I think only a couple days after we did What's Up.
Yeah.
But we got some additional information. I will say, though, this is still alleged, but there has been, support in it. But Jason Schreier of Bloomberg did come out with an article with more details about the whole case on what I will just call, Helena versus Platinum Games. In it, he basically cites that he has sources in, various places that informed him and produced evidence that, while Helena was offered $4,000, that it was $4,000 for about 4 to 5 sessions of about 4 hours each to voice Bayonetta.
Which, if you break that down, that's 5 figures for one job. That's about $1K an hour, which is a lot.
It is a lot.
Most people.
Apparently, Helena, though, was asking for a six-figure number, and oh, excuse me.
Peace.
Oh, excuse me. Was asking for six figures, and they didn't use this term specifically, but royalties.
Yes, residuals.
Residuals. Thank you. Platinum was just basically like, no, and Helena walked out.
And also from this, we got commentary from some of Schreier and his sources and from corroborating people in the industry that apparently what Platinum offered Helena Taylor was pretty typical. Since kind of the negotiation with voice actors a few years back, the per session styling is usually the way they handle the payment, and I believe the minimum agreed on between the unions and most video game production companies is about $950 per session.
Yes.
And that is your minimum standard for any amount of time you take in a session. Like if you just show up to like do a background voice or do some, mook yells, that's how much you get paid. And the no residuals is interesting. That's like an ongoing debate, but
well, the no residuals is interesting because that's actually something that was also agreed to in those whole negotiations. They agreed to no residuals. Instead, they would get bonuses based on something. I can't remember exactly.
Probably on total sales
or something.
Which, like, I know obviously some people are like, oh, well, actors, can get residuals for movies and TV. Why don't they get them for video games? I think that's just because in the video game world, residuals are very weird. And nobody really gets residuals. You usually do get performance-based bonuses. Developers, both on the individual level and on a like studio-wide level, will receive bonuses and incentives for like meeting sales quotas or certain Metacritic scores. But nobody really gets the classic like you get 1% of the profits every year kind of a stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the general point of like why they negotiated around this for voice actors was basically the idea that like, well, our artists and programmers and designers don't get residuals on these games, so I understand that actors normally get residuals on TV, but you guys are doing only a slice of the work here. And it is true, while voice acting and performance capture can be very critical to games, it is still only like a slice of the work, compared to people who are doing a lot of the modeling, the art assets, music composition, programming, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and in general, it seems like everybody on the Bayonetta 3 side is kind of content to just make some very nondescript public statements and kind of let Schreier's inside source stories, which have been corroborated by some other reporters, kind of stand on its own, at least until the game is out.
Mm-hmm.
Jen Hale actually posted a thing being like, hey, you guys know me, you know my reputation, I have been an advocate for this business, so, just play it cool when it comes to me, and, make sure to think about, how whole bunches of people made this game, basically, the classic argument, like, I understand you might be upset with, Platinum management right now, but do remember that a lot of people worked really hard to make this game possible. And honestly, for Bayonetta, that's really true. Like, the sequel has been several years in the making, and Platinum is not always a banger of a money company,
They do make weird financial decisions, but people, this is something that I have to bring up. I do feel like I need to bring up, because people have it in their head that Bayonetta is some, AAA, groundbreaking, huge moneymaker. It's
really not.
It's really not.
No, I mean, the reason why the sequel was exclusive to the Wii U is because Nintendo swooped in to fund it. They couldn't find anybody to fund a sequel after the first one came out. The original Bayonetta was very much a cult hit.
And that only became really a cult hit after it got heavily discounted and bundled with other games.
Yeah, obviously, I've talked about this before. On the PS3, I played the shit out of the original Bayonetta. I did all the stuff, the hardest difficulties, whatever. I really loved that game. It's got a lot of, a lot of style, a lot of substance. They have very specific design goals, what they're doing, talking about like how they, designed Bayonetta as a character, all of her attacks. Like obviously there is kind of this, sexy element that like some people may have missed the mark in marketing.
Mhm.
And I know I've heard like, I mean, it's true, but also it's really goofy to hear this sometimes of like, oh yeah, I can't play Bayonetta on my couch with my grandparents in the room, and I'm like, damn, that's true. That's also a weird vibe. Like, are you? Listen, there's lots of games I couldn't play in the room with my parents, but that's mostly because they're not big gamers. Like, I got complaints for like because video game music loops, that like I had it up too loud playing video games at the TV. So like, yeah, that's true, but that's a weird one. But yeah, no, like Bayonetta, I believe it was counted as a PS3, greatest hits game. It eventually made the sales for sure.
Eventually.
But yeah, it was not again, cult hit. It was not a big standout at first, and there was not a lot of fun looking for the sequel. And like you said, Platinum is not a AAA game studio. They are a pretty good game studio, but usually they need serious funding manpower from a big publisher like a Nintendo or like even Square Enix, who helped them publish Nier and Nier Automata. And even then, that's not perfect. Let me go. Babylon's Fall. Metacritic. How we doing? Yep, that's still a 41 with a 2.1 user score.
Oof.
Like, there is like one outright positive review and a decent number of mixed reviews, but it is mostly negative. And that was a PlayStation exclusive or timed exclusive, basically like a four-man Soulsborne kind of, or four-man, maybe even a little bit near kind of like action-y game. But yeah, it's just, people don't like it.
People don't like it.
Yeah. So it's not like Platinum makes perfect games. No. Just because Nier Automata is on everything, you will literally be able to play it on a toaster in a few years, I bet. Does not mean that like Platinum is overly successful. And again, talking about like we talked about how residuals are not necessarily common in the games industry. It's not necessarily like Platinum is making oodles and oodles of money every time they re-release that game, because obviously some of that has to go to the sellers in the marketplace, and also like some of it probably goes to whatever part of the team is actually responsible for making the port as well.
Yeah. But
even should even throw this if people don't know this little bit of game history. Platinum itself is a byproduct of one of those classic, video game studio closures.
Yeah.
They used to be, most of those devs used to be with Cloverworks, who designed, among other things, Okami.
Mm-hmm.
And some other franchises, but they ran out of cash and were forced to close and basically, reform themselves as Platinum.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I don't think that Platinum is necessarily the best with money, so which is probably why they need oversight and such things, which is probably why, this whole thing, like, came about, like, honestly. There is actually a lot of reports that, Ms. Helena was actually giving a substantial increase from what, she was offered before, but apparently it wasn't enough.
Yeah, like I don't really like to. You've yourself said, that like the painful thing. You said this both last week's show and also offline. The painful thing is like we won't ever really know what happened.
Yeah.
Unless like people get really, really honest. We can't ever assume somebody's motivation unless they straight up say it, and even then they could be lying.
Mm-hmm.
There is a certain amount of devil's advocate, look on the bright side stuff you can do towards Taylor. It could be, for instance, because obviously some of these comments, these decisions would have been handled by Platinum in Japan and then filtered through whoever was handling localization. I don't know if that would be Nintendo of America or if Platinum has an explicitly, American or international branch to handle that kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they do.
Because, again, localization, like, that's a whole nother wrinkle. Like, I know that's a thing going on with some Trails games in NISA right now, NISA. I think some announcements are getting, like, spoiler bombed because the localization for the latest Trails game is going to take fucking forever in English. And as usual, people are upset that they can't play the thing they want to play. So like the localization angle and going through like sometimes another third party after you've done developing and publishing to go through like, oh, and now we need somebody to localize it too. That's a whole thing. So like it could be that Taylor got some business communications that were misconstrued. You know, they did not explicitly say, you know, per session or how many sessions it would be. You know, they could have just pitched her the 4K number.
I'm not inclined to believe that. I'm sorry.
No, I will say I don't think Taylor has done herself a lot of favors because, like, her response to all these reports and the internet hubbub has, as far as I know, been basically, well, I just wanted to raise awareness, but I'm over it. I don't really want to pursue this matter anymore. I'm going to go continue my career in stage acting.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you were really, like, genuinely wronged by these people, I mean, sometimes if there's, like, lawyer stuff involved, some people can get very tired with these things, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Again, we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. But in general, I'm done with this, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to go quit to the whatchamacallit, you know, the theater industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know, big mic drop, I'm going home energy. Taking my ball and going home. Like, I do not know what would have possessed her to call for the 6 figures. Like, I don't know.
Well, if I understand it correctly, what I've read, the pandemic hit her hard too because apparently Bayonetta is like only her her only voice acting role, and she has a career mostly in theater. With pandemic and stuff like that, she would have had a much harder time, you know, doing such things. So she might have been hurting a bit in the wallet and was hoping to maybe recoup some losses.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's kind of the vibe I got. Was this was very much well, I'm planning on going back to retiring from any VA work and going back to theater acting. I would like a big lump sum now,
Yeah.
so I can go about my business. The thing is, the problem with lump sums is you need to have the money lying around, which, again, talking about how Platinum's not very big, they probably did not have in their budget.
No.
And
But-
honestly, I think that's just kind of the vibe a lot of us got. Like, again, the fact that they replaced Taylor with Jennifer Hale, a very well-known and prolific voice actress who is a renowned advocate for voice actors in the industry, that made me a little like, okay, this is a thing. Something is going on here.
I mean, a lot of us were like, wait a fucking minute.
Hold on, that doesn't make any... Like, obviously, all of us are perfectly prepared mentally to believe in corporate...
Oh, yeah.
There are quite a lot of stories going around this year about specifically voice actors and other work and, you know, wage theft, basically.
Oh, yeah.
This is a big deal with Crunchyroll. While it seems to have basically rolled over on the internet after a couple of days of kvetching and moaning and stories coming out, this is part of the crux of the Rooster Teeth controversy we talked about last week as well. A lot of it was just, hey, a lot of people who worked on their animated shows like RWBY, you know, were not necessarily paid for their voice roles and separately from like their actual, you know, salaries. And there have been, you know, cases of heavy duty crunch at work. Personally, while I do think that like loads and loads of crunch is very bad, it's systemic, you know? Like that's just the nature of work and projects where it's like, well, we got to get this done. Like, you know, sometimes people crunch it out themselves, and I wish there were other ways around it, but this is kind of the way it works sometimes. Like with, this isn't even like, ooh, late stage capitalism thing. Like just in general, every time you operate, money is going out. Every month you know, your doors are open, you have to pay people, you have to keep your lights on, et cetera, et cetera. So if you've already spent a lot of money developing a project, you can't always afford to, you know, keep the lights on and keep everybody paid that extra month of delay to make sure you're not crunching, right?
Right.
And obviously, with some projects, yes, you could probably budget your time better at the top stage to make that work out, but sometimes you can't. And so, like, I think we should do more to make sure that people are appropriately compensated if they end up crunching and doing overtime and stuff, and try to avoid deliberate crunch time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, try and plan around it and do it only as a last resort. But ultimately, it's like, there's going to be moments where you're going to crunch.
I mean, I think it's it's always, you know, those things of inevitability, just problems, delays, and
Yeah. Like, you can...
excuse me.
You can do some stuff to alleviate it, but you're probably going to get a little bit of pucker time on those deadlines. I think that's just how a lot of humans are. God knows I doomed myself to all kinds of, you know, my personal equivalent of crunch work, like with college homework and shit, right? So many, this essay is due by midnight. What time is it? 6 p.m.? Let's go.
But,
you know, cram it all into 6 hours of work when I had like 2 weeks to do it.
you know, and I do want to say, you know, that, you know, everyone should believe that everyone should get a fair wage for their work.
Yep.
Like, if you're putting in them extra hours, you know, you should get that extra pay. But I think, you know, on the other foot, we need to, like, realize that just because you want a certain amount of money doesn't mean you deserve, or that's what you should get.
And also there is, I think, the classic blood from a stone problem to be assumed. Like, again, it's the same thing with like Platinum. Like, everybody's like, ooh, Platinum, they have their name on game boxes. They're made of money. They're just full of, you know, greedy executives. No, probably not. Like, hey, I am sure the executives did not want to budget any more dollars than they had to anything, but they budgeted something. Again, got Jen Hale to do it. There was a certain amount of money that was set aside for VA work, and they were ready to use it. So, like, at some point, you just don't have the juice, and people are not going for it. Yeah, I do agree, Chris Darlette. I do think a lot of businesses, for like investors and stuff, do try to set their deadlines, assuming nothing goes wrong, and we should probably learn that lesson a little bit, guys. But there is, I think, a certain amount of shenaniganery you can't avoid. And actually, to divert for a hot second, though, I have a couple of other things in this thing to talk about. That does remind me of a story I actually heard very recently that was actually corroborated by some sources. So apparently it's probably pretty true. But a potential reason has been floated for why CP2077 was quite so buggy at launch. It was, in fact, good old-fashioned, you know, corporate negligence and corruption, but it wasn't by CDPR necessarily. Apparently, the company they had hired to do QA did not do a good job.
Oh, really?
Yes. There was a report, I believe, by PC Gamer where they interviewed some ex-employees of them. It was Quantic something. It's not Quantic Dream, but they used Quantic as part of their name. But basically, those ex-employees allege that the team for Cyberpunk 2077, their QA team they contracted, was not very large, and everybody on it was very inexperienced. Like, the project leads had about a year's worth of QA experience.
Oof.
And that they were driven by something that is unfortunately very common in the QA business, but is not a good for the end product. They had incentives to report a certain number of bugs, meaning that CDPR would have been flooded with lots of frivolous bug reports, and it may have been hard to track down heavier bugs. Now, obviously, this does not completely resolve CDPR's executives of the release, because they still knew they had a buggy product and were like, fuck it, throw it out there anyway. But their release was probably not helped by the fact that their QA team was not optimal.
Yeah.
Their game release could have been a little cleaner if they did. And as usual, like, I don't really like to fucking go to bat for, you know, executives and shareholders and stuff. Makes you feel a little grody inside. But sometimes the internet deserves what it gets. Guys, how many times for the, like, past 6 years were y'all making fun every time they made another one of those bright yellow posts about how they were delaying the game? So, naturally, they're going to want to stop delaying the game, because every time they do it, you fucking make fun of them. And they don't want to be made fun of. Like,
I think people forget that even though corporations are big, scary, you know, corporations, there are still people behind them who have feelings.
Yeah, you know, and the executives don't want to look like assholes to investors. You know, the investors don't want the company they're investing in to look like jokes. I'm sure the marketing team wants to be taken seriously, you know, and at some point you're like, well, fuck it. If we delay again, everybody's gonna be on our ass. They're gonna be like, "Oh, it's vaporware. It's not coming out. Oh, they do release it again." Yes, I do believe they had some contract issues. They would have ended up owing more money back if they broke on it. But still, like, it's depending on like when it was. When did they actually release? I think it was November, right?
It was November.
Or was it
yeah.
December?
It was November, I believe.
Yeah, like honestly, if it was for a calendar year, they could have given it another month, maybe. Like, I don't know the exact terms of the contract. If your contract says you have a flat number of delays of the product, that's a stupid contract. Don't do that, kids. That sounds like a dumb idea. If you had to release it like within a calendar year, they still probably could have given it another month, and they decided not to because they were like, honestly, again, if the QA was bad, they were probably like, fuck it, there's no way we're going to catch all these bugs that are being reported, even though some of them are probably very minor bugs, before we release it anyway. We might as well just drop the product and patch it up, so we'll see. But yeah, that was a very interesting story I heard, and like, again, nothing that goes wrong is usually one singular fuck-up. It's usually like a carnival of fuck-ups.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like, it's the same for Platinum. I think it's the same for like some of the Rooster Teeth stuff, and even for CDPR. A lot of people are just on the Bluebird app are just ready for failure. They want to eat the rich, but like in kind of the boring, obvious way where anybody who's vaguely successful, like if I've heard your name on TV, I want to eat you, even though you're probably not that rich.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, again, the Rooster Teeth thing had a lot of buzz. There were various statements from both employees and corporate. Their corporate message was ultra wishy-washy and was basically pointless, but they had to say something. But when they get replies like, no excuse, pay your employees and close your company, like, what? What? Fucking what? Internet, that's not how the world works.
Well, that's how
First
the
of
internet
all,
works.
no, they're not going to
unfortunately.
pay their back pay and then close up shop. Like, if you succeed in canceling this company, the company is going to close and nobody's going to get fucking paid.
Declare bankruptcy, have everything wiped, everyone go home.
Yeah, like, okay, sure. I get that, like, in the just world, you'd want them to, like, sort out the back pay they may or may not owe for people and all that stuff, but, like, that's... If you drive this company to closure through bad press, that's not what's going to happen unless, like, those people can, like, sue and in a court of law prove they are owed back pay. Which, quite frankly, if they could, they probably would already. Like, the fact that the only recourse of some of these people seems to be to talk about how, you know, they were not necessarily being compensated for specific tasks and specific roles. Again, like I said, a lot of this seems to be doing with Ruby voice acting, which was always envisioned as a little bit of a homegrown project. Monty Ohm always had a lot of people around the office in mind, people he knew from, you know, working in Austin. You know, in mind for some of these characters as he was designing them. So there's always been a kind of the whoever we can grab around the office vibe. Obviously, as it got like super giga ultra successful, they actually attracted a lot of serious voice actors, and I think even some of them have said, like, after some of the allegations about pay for some of the other Ruby voice actors, some of them have said they're not coming back. Which is an interesting blow. We'll see how that works out. Though again, hey, talking about like the you know the many heads of the snake. As far as I know, I think Ice Queendom was fairly successful for them, and that was, you know, technically produced in cooperation with Overseas, so they could just remake all of Ruby as an anime now, and don't need to do any more volumes at home. Wouldn't that be wacky wild?
I hope people don't
But yeah,
take
like-
offense when I say I think I would prefer that. Just
I mean, honestly, I don't think people would take offense. There's been a lot of controversy over the years about the seasons of the 3D animated Ruby. Like, they have run the gambit of, like, the crunch time, the not... Like, again, people assume these companies are spicier than they are, and at times, Rooster Teeth has had a lot of employees. But a lot of that is because they have been bought out by a lot of, like, higher-level people up the food chain, the classic, you know, internet company investment. You know, they were owned by, like, Otterbox, which got sold to, like, WB, who's part of that whole thing. And, well, guess what? Probably as part of WB's ongoing cost-cutting stuff. Because I don't know. They suck at something. I don't know what WB sucks at, but they suck at something. Making movies, I guess. Those are expensive. That's probably their problem. I don't know. Personally, I think that means you guys should, make less movies and focus on the stuff that people care about. But whatever. Probably doesn't have movies are expensive, but they have a big possible return on investment, I guess. But like they have Rooster Teeth has less employees now. Quite a few people have had their positions dissolved. Basically, they're not fired so much as corporate has reorganized, and they just don't have the slot for those employees anymore, which is one of the shittiest ways to be let go from your job, I think. But it do be like that sometimes, and but even like before all that, the original seasons of RWBY were produced by like 6 guys in a warehouse. Like, yeah. So I don't know. Like the Japanese anime industry has their own issues sometimes, their own talking about like employee conditions and funding and whatever. But there have actually been some back and forth about that in recent years for them as well. And honestly, if a proper professional studio were to take a crack at it all the time, they had a lot of issues. And I mean, honestly, talking about that, like writing-wise, there's a very glaring issue with RWBY, which is Monty died, unfortunately, very suddenly and tragically. Was it right in the middle of Volume 3, I think it was? So, like, there's a very clear shift where Monty was part of the creative vision, and then Monty was not part of the creative vision, and that is kind of a turning point for a lot of stuff in people's minds. So there's some work to be done there. I should watch Ice Queendom at some point. Haven't got around to it, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I mean, again, talking about the eagerness for people to like eat these corporations. I heard some people like, oh well, like some people were trying to like turn this on, like, oh well, how did Monty die? Well, it was a accident with his allergic reaction. He went to go get allergy shots for something, and had an adverse reaction to the medical equipment, and unfortunately died. Like, you can't say that Rooster Teeth killed him. It was entirely, a tragic accident, of his own making in a situation he didn't have actual control of. But it's like, yeah,
But speaking of eating the rich and whatnot, I think I want to say he's a victim in this. I do believe that Hideki Kamiya is kind of a victim in all this.
Yeah, I mean,
well, let me see here. The man is a gremlin, but here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's the fucking thing, and this is why I think a lot of people forget. Hideki Kamiya has always been a gremlin.
Yes,
he has always been a gremlin. He has not actually changed any way he has acted in the past several fucking years. The only problem is he was the cool guy that everyone liked because he was making cool games. The minute that he fucking was on the opposite side, you all fucking tore into him so badly, and then acted like it was something new and surprising. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I will say some of this I think is just exposure. Like, I genuinely think that some people did not know that Hideki Kamiya was a gremlin on Twitter. He blocks a lot of people. Hey, you know who also blocks a lot of people? Jason Schreier. He's been in interviews and stuff where he's just like, oh yeah, I block people on Twitter. I don't care. If you say something that I just don't want to hear, block you. But like, yeah, I genuinely do not think that until this issue like catapulted Bayonetta 3 and Platinum actively into the spotlight. Like, obviously, if you were fans of Platinum and of Bayonetta, it was, a game you were highly anticipating. There were so many memes about when it was coming out and getting trailers and release dates and stuff, so on and so forth. But genuinely, some people were not necessarily initiated into how Kamiya operated. But if you knew him, you knew that he is kind of abrasive and weird on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's kind of his thing. And honestly, like, I think... Genuinely, I feel like it's because he probably doesn't really want to be on Twitter that much, but somebody probably told him he should be. And sometimes Twitter is fun.
And it's just the thing of, like, people are, like, people are harassing him over him blocking people. I'm like, excuse the fuck out of me if a man doesn't want to see people yelling at him, giving him hate mail, changing his Wikipedia to put fucking man child on his Wikipedia. Fuck no, don't deal with them. Remove them from your timeline.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like a lot of people assume that if you are a quote-unquote public figure, oh, if you block people, that's wrong. No. All people are people.
Yeah.
Okay? And you should feel free to excise that block or mute button perfectly. Yeah, he's just lit on Twitter to catch pictures of art of Bayonetta and people. Yeah, makes sense.
Oh no, trust me, he just probably blocks a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, he quote unquote has rules, even though he will tweet in English. He does not like replies in English.
Yeah.
And he quote unquote tweets in English. I don't know if he filters that through somebody first, and then that's like he doesn't want to deal with trying to translate your messages on the fly on his phone or whatever. Like, That is something I think English speakers take for granted, is that, the internet is truly multicultural. Like, it's really cool when I see people taking an effort. Like, obviously, Hideo Kojima has, I assume somebody translate for him, even though I'm pretty sure he speaks pretty good English. I just feel like that sounds like something he'd filter through, but maybe he does all his tweets on his English Twitter, in English as well. Just that seems like that would be very tiring. But
also, I'm gonna be real. It's like I don't speak. If I didn't speak, if I was Hideki Kamiya and I don't speak English that well, these people trying to yell at me in English, I'm just like, I'm not about this. I probably do not know this person. Get the fuck away.
Yeah. But like, listen, I'm not gonna say that like he's a cool, good dude, right? Like you said, he's a gremlin. He's kind of an asshole. But there's a lot of assholes who are on Twitter. The only reason why you care is because he's Hideki Kamiya, director of Bayonetta, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
If he was nobody, you wouldn't give a shit. And honestly, I do feel like audience, people at home, people of the world. Let me say something to you. As somebody who's been on the internet a long time, and I've read a lot of like speculative fiction about the near future and the internet and bullshit. You want to protect your right as an individual to just say shit that is not necessarily connected to like your work, your company, the people you hang out with, whatever. The fact that there are so many Twitters that have to say, opinions and facts expressed within are mine and not my company's kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really want to live in that Orwellian-ass future where everything you say is a judgment of everything you're associated with all the time, because guess what? Then you won't be able to say shit. And so I do think that, like, if you have a personal Twitter or any kind of social media face that is by you for you, like, you're just here to do your social media things. I don't care how famous you are. You have the ability to fucking block people and mute people and not interact with people if you want, because this is the thing you do for you. Now, if it's a Twitter that's about you, that's really just like another vector for your personal brand or publicist or whatever, this does sometimes happen with like celebrities and stuff, and you don't fuck with social media at all, that's different. But like fundamentally, I would not go to like Hideki Kamiya Twitter for like official platinum news. I would look to some kind of official platinum social media, right?
Right.
And Platinum Games did actually post, again, a very nondescript statement of just like, hey, we know stuff's weird. We can't say anything right now. We hope you enjoy the game. Goodbye.
Please don't bully Jeff Hale.
Yes, don't harass Jen Hale. Like, don't be like that. A thing that unfortunately has to be said about so many of these things going on right now. Just, hey, don't harass people. There's a little bit of a possible VTuber-related scuffle going on right now. And,
oh, God, really?
A lot of the yeah, I'm going to assume you probably haven't heard of it because I know you don't necessarily follow a lot of this stuff. But, how much kayfabe do I want to break? Listen, I greatly appreciate the kayfabe put into VTubers, but also I feel like I can get away with some stuff. There's just some weird vibes right now. I was trending earlier, but I think it's, is it, maybe I get my name right. It's, is it Mikeneko or Mikenoko? Control H. Yes, Mike Neko. So some stuff between Mike Neko associated with V Shoujo, who is not confirmed, obviously, because this is the nature of the business, but widely assumed to be a successor account to the former Hololive Rushia, who obviously was let go from the company under another, shenanigans. Is apparently in some kind of ongoing thing with another VTuber. I'm sorry if I don't get the name right. Is it Deluya? Who is believed to be the successor for the performer who was behind a similarly rapidly removed Hololive talent, Mana Aloe, which is another sad story in its own right of internet nonsense, foolishness. But apparently there was some behind-the-scenes talk that there may have been some gossip at Mike Neko's previous employment that came from managers or management. This was involved in the gossip YouTuber conversations that may possibly have gotten her in trouble already. And some stuff was reported to her that actually came from Deluya.
Oh, God.
But Deluya says, nah, it didn't, and if you've got proof of this, let me know. And basically, it turned off from a DM/semi-public conversation to now both sides are Mike Neko is like, all right, don't talk to me officially anymore. Talk to my lawyers, kind of a thing, which is a weird take. Like some people in the internet are trying to be like, nah, it's perfectly normal. We involve lawyers, and I'm like, no, that's not perfectly normal. You do not require a lawyer to have a private conversation with another human being. But anyway, yeah, so that's just another weird situation that's going on that may or may not turn into something.
This fog is terrifying.
Again, what's up? Oh, yeah, it's kind of purpley.
I'm going back inside. I wanted to go out and do some stuff so people just weren't watching me watch movie and read books, but no. Fucking no.
It's late anyway. Fuck it, it's bad out there. It's scary out there. We don't want to go out there.
It's scary.
But yeah, I will at least appreciate there is a general vibe on the internet with this topic trending where a lot of people are saying hey, guys, whatever is going on, they have agreed to take this maybe to a legal arena. Don't harass either talent in this case, It's not worth it for us, the public, to get involved in sassing them, which, yeah, that's just, in general, don't harass people. Don't bother people, okay?
God, this is why I always get so weirded out by people who are just so okay with just throwing shit, slate, and insult at other people. I'm like, why? What does this accomplish? What are you trying to prove?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess just, I don't know. It's some people are probably the greater internet fuckwad theory and what they're just they feel like a big man online who can just say whatever the fuck they want. While I appreciate anonymity, like I just talked about earlier, I think that a certain amount of anonymity and being able to disassociate some of your private thoughts from your public self, just so you can not go crazy. At the same time, I do think way too many people on the internet are willing to talk big britches shit, which they know would get their asses clapped in real life, right?
Yeah.
While generally it is considered a negative to beat people up in public, we still understand that is a thing that can happen. And legally, guess what? There is a difference in levels of criminality between unprovoked violence and then reasonably provoked violence. This is an actual difference between degrees of certain crimes involving assault or homicide or whatever. The law allows provisions for lesser punishment and counting it as a less serious offense if the jury might find it reasonable that you beat somebody's ass. That is literally how certain legal precedents work.
And if I remember correctly, actual some degrees of talking shit is allowed.
Yeah, no, for instance, it's actually very hard to prove slander in the U.S. Because our standards, you have to prove that somebody who slandered you said something incorrect with malicious intent and knowing it was false. If you have no facts to back it up, but you still think somebody is being a piece of shit, you can just say, I think you're a piece of shit. And I'll say it publicly. I think, Bob Bobman is a piece of shit. And if Bob Bobman tries to sue you, because he's that I'm not a piece of shit factually, and it'd be I don't know that actually. Like, and obviously that means that there's a lot of freedom for people to talk shit. But again, it does. We have a lot of protections in this country. It's a little wacky and wild. But yeah, I just, like I said, I don't understand why some people are willing to like talk such big smack on the internet, on the public internet, when you do not have the stones to say that in like a crowded theater or a bar or whatever. Like, you would not go to a street corner and say some of this shit. And for sure about people, you would not say those things in their presence because you understand, when you're in your little socialized heart, that would be very rude and unkind, and also possibly gonna get you slapped.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get clapped. But no, people be like that sometimes. It's wacky. It's wild.
It is wacky and wild.
I mean, in general, I think it's just our conduct of slander has to do with, like, again, the fact that I talked about this with the Bayonetta story, that in criminal justice, in the system of our judicial system, trying to do justice, the hardest fucking thing for us to prove has always been motive. We can assume motive. We can present logical motives to a jury, to lawyers, whoever, Investigators can be presented with logical motives to do crimes. But since we lack the ability to perceive other people's thoughts, and I hope to God we can never fix this. Again, I'm big on privacy, y'all. Like I said, I feel like you should be allowed to express your private thoughts in a certain space. I just feel like you should remember that some of your thoughts are not that private. And you should maybe consider them like that. Anyway, that means that it's very hard to empirically prove why people do things. Some people really do things just because. They don't know why they do them, just the instinct or the desire to do them strikes them, and they do it. Whether that's because they are socially maladjusted or psychotic, or they were inebriated on drugs, or they're just an asshole. You can just be poorly socialized and have delinquent behaviors. It's possible. Probably means that your parents didn't let you play with other kids or hug you enough or something. I don't know. The laundry list of things that can fuck you up from a very early age. Development of delinquent behaviors, right? True, yeah. We're just like, Axe, come on, don't do that. Axe, why did you do that? You know not to do that. And you're like, sorry, I just did it.
Shift key.
But like we can't know the hearts of other humans truly. That's kind of the big crux of all human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's like, in terms of, trying to like dish out who gets what justice and whatever, it's hard to really tell why people do things. And because I think I started this on the talking point about slander. Because you can't really prove and know why somebody said something, that you have to do wiggle room, because otherwise you would have to go the other way. You would need a too strict definition, and you couldn't say anything about anything. Me personally, I lean towards looser definitions that give more room for margin of error and judgment than for strict definitions where people would get in trouble a lot. People already get enough smack. Earlier, Axe actually talked about people just digging up old shit. Like, I remember Markiplier did a very funny thing this week as well. He said that he would create an OnlyFans, but only if his podcast was #1 and beat Joe Rogan, which it did. Lots of people downloaded his podcast and shoved it to the top. Now, in this opportunity, some people decided to bring up some old shit he said like 5 years ago about PewDiePie, back when this was in the core of the is or is not PewDiePie a Nazi. And honestly, a lot of people are still mad at him for that. I think that just genuinely, he was just an edgy dude on the internet, which lots of people are edgy dudes on the internet, and they don't realize how bad it is. Like I said, I said this last week, Team 4-Star has been doing a, director's commentary on all of their stuff, and they talk about how they use some words and phrases that they find a little cringy these days that were just of the time, and it's not cool anymore. Dropping the hard R. That was on network TV when they started that show. And now we're kind of like, yeah, that one really, honestly, I think we can all just remove the hard R from our vocabulary most of the time, just because it's lost its meaning. And a lot of people use it in I don't know if I would say it as a slur, but they use it in very broad strokes ways to attack non-neurotypicals. And it's just kind of like lost all point in being in the conversation anyway, you know? There's no reason to use the word. But they're like,
unless you talk about something being fire retardant.
Yes, true. There are certain contexts when you can say that because that is what that word is normally supposed to mean. If something is fire retardant, you can also have other forms of I think the actual correct verb is retardation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember my English, but yeah, it's just like as like an insult, I think it's just gotten so muddied and pointless and like I said, used for a lot of stupid you know, arguably bigoted things. We can talk about neurodiversity a little bit. You know, people, we realize that brains are all kinds of fucked up and all kinds of weird. And, you know, we probably shouldn't. Personally, I'm of the opinion that just, I don't want to be throwing stones about brains.
I don't know shit about brains.
Yeah. Listen, I know a guy who allegedly goes to school to study brains. I've talked to him about this. He knows we don't know shit about brains.
I question that man's intelligence on a regular basis.
Yeah, sometimes he does stuff. It's funny. But again, it's not like you could say like Dallas is actually a dumbass. Like he's knee deep in a fucking PhD program for psychology. So like he does stuff. Honestly, it's probably just the thing I'm thinking about. Like I've seen other people do this a lot, where Dallas probably just shows up to play games to turn his brain off because he's probably pretty busy engaging his brain in other stuff all day. Some people do be like that. But, you know, like I said, a lot of people dredged up this stuff with Markiplier and PewDiePie, and, like, PewDiePie's name is still very poor to a lot of people just because I think he was just part of a conversation about edgy jokes, and then some stuff happened, and we realized, oh, hey, guys, unironic, National Socialist-ass fascism is alive. Weird. It's been almost 100 years, but it's still there. Maybe we should not treat this necessarily as that kind of a joke. National socialism and white supremacy is a joke, but mostly in that it's just embarrassingly stupid and not like something to be. It's not something to make jokes about those people, not jokes about the fact that they exist. Anyway. But yeah, like just that's those comments that Markiplier made are like literally 5 years old. And like, when was the last time you saw Markiplier and PewDiePie hang out? Case in point, probably because PewDiePie doesn't go on the internet anymore because he made all his money and he's gone home. Some days I would like to make all my money and go home, but, you know, you guys need to make these videos go more viral.
Okay, now I can make a hook again. Okay. Oh.
Here it is. Back to Trent.
I find this interesting being, you know, unskilled again. Before I had like 10s and like 5 skills, 4 and most of the other ones. I could make about anything, and now I'm just all like, how do I do this again? It's an experience.
Yeah, it's definitely when you go to the skill reset, whether that's like when we did the new server or just from you dying or something. There's definitely that moment of like, okay, can I, like, obviously with the way, you know, we are with, you know, safe houses and bodies and stuff, like, getting your original shit back isn't hard. It's when you want to
fall in the fucking fire.
Well, yeah, there's that too. You died like literally outside your front door. But, just in general, it's like the main thing would be like, if you know, for construction or disassembling certain things and stuff, you're just like, how do I get these things? How do I do this again? Oh, right, I can't. Why is that part of my gameplay loop not accessible? Oh, right, because I need more skills.
Hook made.
Like, my current character on the server has 10 cooking. It's like if I died and I went to go, like, prep food for everybody, and I'm like, I seem not to be able to, like, use all these high-level ingredients we smashed together. Right, because I've lost my ability to cook. It's back to just throwing stuff in the soup pot, boys.
That is hooked again.
Scratching all that stuff up. But yeah, so I talked about earlier. While I haven't done a whole heckin' of a lot over the past couple days, done a few things. But a lot of my energy was in accomplishing a couple of things earlier in the week that I'm sure I can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
If Lucky and the people are down to clown.
Until I'm dead in the ground.
All right, well, I'll start basically chronologically. So I talked about how I probably would last week on the show, and I have in fact done. I have rolled credits on Cult of the Lamb.
Yay.
So I won't spoil the details, but you should be able to see the vibes coming from a mile away with a game like this. But there are multiple ending choices to get you to roll credits. And some of them allow you to continue playing the game, and some you don't. I technically did the option that lets me keep playing, but I haven't been back to play since then because kind of through the process of getting ready for the final run of bosses and stuff, I did most of the side stuff anyway. There's some quests and trophies I could do, but in general, like, I was full on all my tech trees and my doctrines and stuff, like, way ahead of finishing the game. And while there is a, like, unlimited play mode, there's not really, like, a New Game Plus type reset or anything. So I could start a new save and, like, try different strategies, but I don't feel like doing that right now because I went so hard on beating the game in the first place. But I will say I think there is some replayability. If you want my overall review, I would say in our usual metric, I would say probably, like, an 80% a B level. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good game. I will qualify for its price point, and I do believe it is on sale on PSN right now and on Steam, so check it out. Not a huge discount, but a decent one. And I do think the $25-ish to $30-ish, if you want to buy what's called the Cultist Edition, which just comes with some extra cosmetics, unlocks some extra decorations and skins for your followers. It is probably worth that price point. If you have a clear weekend, you're not doing anything, you get to cancel all your meetings, you can knock this out in a weekend. And obviously you can keep playing for longer if you really enjoy the mechanics, or you can probably play it up for focusing for a shorter time. You can speedrun it. But yeah, overall, I had a pretty good time. The combat mechanics are, pretty tight, pretty slick. Got very classic room-to-room kind of dungeon crawly type stuff. There is quite a lot of variety in the weapons and the weapon modifiers, and in the curses, your kind of magic or ranged attack stuff you can do. So much so that, like, even in my, last few runs of the game, I am, like, discovering new variants on curses and stuff. So, like, mechanically, there's a lot of fun there. The controls are all, pretty tight. Obviously, for my personal preference, there were some weapons that I really did not like. The hammer, for instance, was for certain runs absolutely abysmal. The hammer has, like, an AoE melee attack, but you only get, like, one slow stroke, and you're kind of stuck in place while you do it. So, yeah. Big damage, but very, very slow attack speed. And for certain boss fights and encounters, the fact that you have to stand still will really get your ass beat. Mm-hmm. I do kind of find it interesting that the game has a lot of built-in double-edged swords. Like, there are some things that are straight-up upgrades. The upgrades to the crown that you get for clearing the main bosses, the Bishops of the Old Faith, those are basically straight-up upgrades. Those give you, abilities like you can sacrifice a follower to revive once per run. You get a extra, what is called a diseased heart, which still counts as an extra heart, and also damages all enemies when it gets broken. So you get an extra point of HP, and it does AoE damage in a room when you actually lose that HP, which is pretty good. But the capes you can get, the different fleeces, those are almost all, like, side grades or challenges. Like, for instance, one of them you can unlock gets you 1.5 times your max HP, but only in spirit hearts, which are the blue kind of hearts. Those don't heal. When you lose a blue heart, it's gone forever. Another one like gives your damage maxing out the more hits you land and the longer you go without being hit, but you take double damage.
Ooh.
So it's all full of like double-edged swords like that. So I would say Cult of the Lamb firmly falls in that rogue light area where it's not a truly punishing complete start from zero rogue like, but there is a lot of if you lose a run, you kind of go back to your hub world and have to reset, and you do get punished a little bit. I've never actually played Binding of Isaac, so I don't know. I mean, have the vibe that Binding of Isaac is a little harder than Cult of the Lamb.
Oh, it is, but I still had the same vibes when I was watching you play.
Yeah.
It still gave me those vibes.
Yes, and generally I hear people say that it is definitely in that ballpark, but I think the actual combat part of the game is a little bit easier and a little bit more forgiving because there is also your cultist management / settlement builder half, which is honestly pretty all right. Like I had a decent amount of fun with that. They talk about in their roadmap to just wait for possible content updates. I am very interested in future content updates because I do kind of feel like there is certainly some opportunity for them to do a few more things. Like there's a decent number of NPCs you can encounter who like send you on your own variety of subquests. Obviously, your followers can have all kinds of interesting things going on. They can build their own internal relationships. You can kind of get involved with that. A doctrine you can unlock is to marry your own followers, which gives them a big loyalty boost and gives you a faith boost, unless you marry too many of them, because there's nothing stopping you from doing multiple marriage. It's just, if you do that too much in game, your followers start to get jelly. But like I said, there is a certain point where way before I was, I had physically, personally been able to chew through enough runs on the bosses and like get good enough at the game to beat all the bosses, I was already way at the cap for like maxing out my, tech tree for building settlements and maxing out my doctrine tree for like rituals and stuff. Like the early game is a little rough. You guys will remember this from the stream, and Lucky will remember from the stream as well. There was some like early resource hell. Like sometimes my guys got pretty hungry or we didn't have enough lumber. That like really drove some of our decisions about stuff. And drove some of the doctrines I picked. But once you do actually get decently down in those like social tech trees and like building all these settlements, things are pretty good. And I would say, kind of unfortunately, the highest tier of some of those things you're rewarded with is just they give you more devotion, which you don't really need at that stage. Like, the main thing you get for the highest tier of shelter is, one, it never breaks, which is cool because that just kills the maintenance cost. And certain followers will have a trait that gives them more loyalty if they have a nicer place to sleep in. But the other thing it does is they passively gain devotion, which you need to unlock more buildings and stuff. Hey, guess what? Building the final house is at the end of a tech tree that required you to level up your core cult several times and go through like several minimum requirements. So by the time you can get it, you probably don't really need it because you already probably have a lot of systems in place to gather devotion. Similarly, there's an item you can build called the Harvest Totem. That has a V2, which doesn't expand the amount of area in which it like speeds up growing food. It just passively generates devotion. So I feel like there could be some rebalancing and stuff. Like I would honestly prefer if the game didn't come up with like the only extra reward is more devotion, but if it actually like made those buildings better. Like if Harvest Totem V2 had more area. Because, like, they give you plenty of space to build in, but I did kind of feel like I didn't want to, like, go so much out of my little zones for stuff, Mm-hmm. And just for funsies, like, I don't have a complaint. There's a fuck ton of cosmetics. There's a lot of decorations you can build. It's a pretty frequent follower quest you'll be given to build 3 decorations, so that can be kind of amusing to go through to, like, find out the new stuff you can build. But all in all, like, I had a really fun time with the game. I think it's worth the price point for the amount of play. I'm eager to get updates and, fine-tuning. I personally do have to say, I did run into bugs on the PS5 version. I had issues with menus not displaying or just losing the ability to interact with certain things that were core features at times. Like, at one point, I just exit out of a menu and I could not access the altar in my shrine, or I could not press X to talk to followers. And admittedly, it was very easy to solve. I just, quit to main menu and loaded back in, and it was fine. But it did happen a non-zero number of times, so I do want to let people know. So it's not like a perfect game or anything, but it's pretty fun. If you are okay with this kind of aesthetic, it definitely has the cute cartoon animals offset with a lot of freaky deaky gross eldritch shit you can play through. And if you like those kinds of games, dungeon crawlies and roguelikes and stuff, it's definitely got some strong stuff there for you to get into. A wide variety of weapons, all kinds of different types of weapons you can unlock. Like I said, the curses are pretty rad. And the tarot card system for the buffs you get it's pretty solid. It's a classic of these roguelike type games. I remember Hades basically has the same thing with the divine boons.
Mm-hmm.
But those can really make or break a lot of your runs, and you can keep unlocking more as you go on, and they're pretty fun. You can get some cool shit. I was always a fan of whenever I got it, the one that lets you turn your dodge roll into an attack. That's always really fun when you can get that. But there's all kinds of other stuff that you can just unlock, and sometimes they're better. Like I said, got a lot of replayability, got a lot of playtime in it. And it's a fun time. Check it out while it's on sale. And like I said, maybe they will have some further support down the line. Because honestly, the game doesn't have that much variety in bosses and enemies. Obviously, too, there's 4 areas in the game. One for each bishop, and then there is a 5th finale zone, but that's very truncated when you actually defeat all the bishops and can unlock the one who waits below. But once you defeat the 3 normal bosses and then the bishop as the 4th run, there is technically a follow-up version, which is enhanced, but after that they just repeat endlessly the same bosses if you have to go back to those areas either for resources or indefinite runs or whatever. So I kind of feel like there could be some more variety in that. The main way you get more variety is just getting further in the game and getting access to new areas, but still pretty all right. And, if you want to see some of the gameplay and some of the writing and stuff, like I said, I streamed the first 3-ish hours. Go ahead and check it out on our channel.
Yeah.
Games are good.
Games are good.
And honestly, just in general, I'm kind of in a phase of not knowing what the fuck to play right now. I've been kind of got back on playing a little bit of Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed.
Mm-hmm.
Solid time. But it's also still not the game has enough energy to suck me in and just do side jobs, but also at the same time, it's I can easily just put it down and stop playing. So, I went pretty ham on. I basically did the thing I keep doing with Cyberpunk, which is I start a new run, I'm super hype, and then I realize that oh right, main story quests, I have to complete those. Okay, fine, I'll follow Takamura around again. Fine, I'll go talk to the Voodoo Boys again. The only one of the quests I have fun with is starting Pan Am's line. It's always fun. It's always a fun time with Pan Am. But yeah, I don't know when they're planning a next patch, minor patch or a big patch, whatever. A lot of people are eyeballing that Phantom Liberty is probably coming early next year, so we'll see about that.
I'm hoping so.
I'll definitely bring back some characters for Phantom Liberty, and might, depending on what kind of stuff, whenever 1.7 comes out, when they do some stuff I think they're talking about with police chases and vehicle combat and whatnot. And again, I hope they can do some other vehicle customization-y type stuff. Be very interested to check that out. Yeah, I think we did, because it was in the thumbnail, I think we mentioned last time that they are on a community-submitted new radio station. The DLC will come with a new radio station.
Yes.
And 10 of the 15 songs available in that will be winners of a community-submitted contest. The deadline for that, by the way, is only sometime in November, so that does probably mean that Phantom Liberty is not that far out. And it's a little bit like some people can probably complain a little about the paid and exposure or whatever. The reward for winning the contest is a flat $3,000 prize money, with also like you get some other special tchotchkes. That said, like if you're an independent music producer and you make good enough music that it can get into this game, getting a 3K like one-time payday and also having your song be in this game that is very well known for its soundtrack these days, probably still pretty good. You probably will get a return on investment on that, I assume. Like, I mean, I know that like so many of the songs after Edgerunners came out and people really realized like how in-depth and diverse the CP2077 soundtrack is. A lot of those songs have been getting big hits. I remember I opened up the official YouTube video for Who's Ready for Tomorrow, and the real-life artist who did that, Rat Boy, was like the #1 pinned comment and being like, "Wow, thanks so much for the push, guys. Thanks for all the kind words, you know." Because after Edgerunners, that one really took off, along with I Really Want to Stay at Your House, you know. Some big boy music moves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think part of my paralysis of games is just like, I would like to remind everybody, guys, I know Game Pass is huge, but I don't have Game Pass, okay? I have an Xbox. I don't have a PC that can run most games. I need to figure out, you know, a fucking price point for a PC sometime. Figure out what all I want other than just more stuff. More space, more RAM, an actual GPU. That's more. More power, technically. Need that for all the other bits. Need more power supply.
More power.
Yes. So I can't really benefit from the Game Pass, but I do have PS Plus Extra. And, guys, there's a lot of fucking games on there. Like, I know they're announcing more all the time, but I feel like every time I go into the catalog, there's, like, shit I missed or didn't notice from last time they included new games. Like, there is a lot of stuff in there. I personally think that they're like, if you're down to clown with, like, first-person shooters, that's a weak spot in their library, Sony. You should really think about that one. Like, they have in the PS Essentials like in the PlayStation 4 Essentials, they've got Battlefield 1, which I had fun with, but is a fucking old game at this point, and Black Ops 3, which is a little bit of a weird pick. I don't think that's everybody's favorite Black Ops. And they have, like, the original Doom, you know, and some stuff like that. They have Killzone Shadowfall, because that was on the PS4, but there's some room there definitely to be done. Though they did add Deathloop recently, which has, you know, FPS mechanics as part of it, though that's, again, much more in the BioShock and arguably even, that, you know, basically we're leaning almost more towards, you know, a variety of first-person RPG stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, they got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of console ports of Paradox games. Not that that's necessarily recommended, but I'm sure they work. Like, if you want to play City Skylines or Stellaris on console, you can do that. And they have a fuck ton of JRPGs, guys. They got JRPGs I never even heard of, but they got them. And they got all kinds of little stuff. They've got, like, horror recommendations of games, including quite a variety of Spookum stuff. I think last month they added Dead by Daylight to the like, permanent PS Plus lineup. All kinds of shit. It's crazy. So, like, I definitely have a time, like, at least once a month, I look through all the lists and I'm like, ooh, I can play that game. I can play that game. And I'm like, no, I haven't beat these other games I've downloaded to play. So there's a lot of games. Ooh. Scratch called the list.
Mm-hmm. Gotta get out there and beat zombies for profit.
Yep. Hold on, let me grab my water quick.
Yeah, how you like that long blunt? Are you wearing leather? You are. Thank you. I need that.
Eat him. Alright, you did in fact eat him.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty good at eating them.
Yep. Yeah, how much has your axe skill recovered?
I've only gotten 1 point off of it. Like I said, I gotta beat a lot of zombies to get it back up. Like when I was before, I was at like, you know, God, what was it, like 1,000 and something zombies killed?
You were at almost 2K.
Yeah.
You posted the screen cap and it's like 1,900 something, I think.
So, like, oh, I only used like long blunt and axes, so it was all that, and it's still an amount.
Yes, I'm looking at the screen cap now, which you posted in Patreon chat when it happened. 1,976 zombies.
Mm-hmm.
We were 24 away from 2K, but still close.
I was close indeed.
The balcony.
Yeah, but now I'm just trying to get back to my previous competence. There was a mod I was looking at that would let you have a book that you could read to get your skills back, but I was like, nah, it's too
And
easy.
too on the nose.
I think it's nice enough. I think it's nice enough that you can just spawn back at your save.
Yeah, you can just, work on picking up all your shit. Like, inventory-wise, you are not necessarily set back, though you may have to do some maintenance. But, the skill setting back is easily enough repaired with the systems that exist.
Yeah. Like I said, I've just been watching tapes and reading, and a lot of my skills are already scrolling back up. So
yeah.
I think that's the thing that like I find actually like looking back at it, I find interesting. Like I wasn't miffed at all that I died despite being very competent. It's how I died. I died because I literally stood too long in my fire by accident. I'm just like, okay, me.
Yeah.
That is definitely under dumb ways to die. And then after that, I was mostly pissed off about the fucking skill books being weird. Now I'm like, how fucking dare?
Yeah.
But after that, I'm just like, all right, no, back to business as usual.
Well, you do have like 250 hours in this game.
Yeah. That's a Spiffo t-shirt. Should I grab it? Has a hole in it. Fuck it.
It's fine. I think if anybody cares if they have a Spiffo t-shirt, they've got it. It is a cool shirt.
Actually, can I just pick this up? Actually, can I pick this up?
There's definitely some,
Is this just a fucking espresso machine? Hang on. Can I pick up the espresso machine? I can!
Damn, I didn't even realize that part. That is pretty cool.
Yoink! Extractor of hood.
There's a lot of little stuff we haven't really...
The fryer.
funneled
Can I
with.
cook on a fryer? Yes! You can actually cook on the fryer. Interesting. Oh, hey, there's just dough in here. And pepperoni. I'm gonna grab that
Yep,
shit.
take them. Always a lot of fun stuff. But yeah, so the other big thing I did this week, which was full blown, madman-esque binge energy.
Yes.
I am occasionally taken by these flights of fancy. I talked about it a little bit. I think it was, I mentioned it on the 14 stream, and then I said that this would be one of the things we would talk about this week. But also go watch the 14 stream. It's mostly about 14. We got to check out the seasonal event, and also I, did some dungeons, booped some snoots.
Snoots.
Lucky and I got involved in a fate and beat up a weird lightning bird. He was causing trouble in our neighborhood, eating Lalafels. Like you do. Sorry, just marveling at the stupidity of some of them Zambos. Let me out. Wait, he's behind me. But so, earlier this week, the thing I did was I watched all of it's in the thumbnail. Mobile Suit Gundam 8th MS Team.
Yes, the best one. Well, one of the best ones, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, it's up there for me. I haven't watched a lot of Gundam, but it's interesting. So, to let people know how I got on this one, because 8th MS Team is actually kind of older.
Yes.
It is I think it was the first OVA they did. It's one of the first, for sure, OVAs they did. Like, very shortly after the original Mobile Suit Gundam. and I got some conflicting reports, but the copyright like on the that they showed in the opening was 96, so it's from like the mid 90s. So it's a bit older. So you may be wondering, especially considering I've talked before about how I'm not. While I enjoy the sum of Gundam that I have seen so far, I am not a big Gundam guy. Do Gundam fans have something they call themselves? I don't know. Chat will know for sure. Our audience will know if there is a noun. So it happened with just as usual, random YouTube recommendation bullshit. I don't even know how or why they did, other than that on Twitter I have been known. And obviously, like Lucky and I have both watched a couple of the clips from G-Witch that Crunchyroll has punched out, for instance. So that may be the source, or it may just be the fact that online I am not averse to yes, retweeting memes and fan art from G-Witch either.
This is another vehicle that Loth has hotwired and probably just left around somewhere.
Yeah, where was Loth the last time he logged in? Was he at the police? Not the police, the pizza place?
Probably not.
Loth likes the pizza place.
I really don't need this, but I was just curious to see if it would start, and it did.
But this video, and I linked it in our anime and manga channel, and I can find it again in history if I. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll. It's a YouTube video, so I will cross promote to our chattels.
Wait,
But
do I still have car sounds at ×5? I should probably fix that.
I will copy the link address. I will... Yeah. There we go. Hot link established. But yeah, so this is just smash cut strung together with like some of the intervening scenes cut out of what is arguably the climactic fight of 8th. There's still some stuff that happens after. It's not like the last episode, but it's one of the more memorable scenes. Some of you on the internet may have seen parts of this because this is the Gundam fight where our protagonist rips off his own robot arm and smacks the other guy with it. Despite the fact that later in the fight is clearly established he still has his beam sabers. He was just really pissed off at that moment. But like just watching this like 10-minute clip really sucked me in because this, I mean, and in general, 8th MS Team is like 200% my aesthetic. It was made in the mid-90s, and in general, despite the fact that it involves giant robots, everything has a really like Vietnam and late Cold War era type aesthetic. Like,
yeah.
In this penultimate, fight, this later section, the last operation the team goes on, like several of the characters are basically wearing the like flak jackets and helmets that like the Colonial Marines and aliens are wearing, and all those props were based off like Cold War era stuff. Like you've got Gundams in deserts, Gundams in jungles very prominently, shit like that. And so there's just something about, like I said, this aesthetic that really, really speaks to me. It also does something that I really like in military sci-fi. It's very squad focused.
Yes.
It is about the 8th MS team, 8th Mobile Suit team. You've got your protagonist, Shiro Amada. He is your pretty standard, ensign newbie. Literally, they call him, Commander Newbie. He is literally an ensign. He is like fresh from space. There's a little bit of backstory stuff too that's alluded to in the series that they get into, and I might mention later. But in general, like this is his like first posting fresh out of the officer school. So he's new to a lot of this command stuff. And he starts off, a little bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The first thing he says to his squad is, "I would like everybody to know that your safety is my number one priority. My orders are always come back alive and then do the mission second." Like, he's really keen on this preservation of life thing, and it gets him a little sass from the rest of the team. He also establishes his bona fides as a pilot in the first episode by operating a ball, a well-known jobber of a machine, to take out a prototype Zaku enhancement. So, which had previously been thrashing, actual, mecha models. I think they were technically GMs, which is like the pre-Gundam mass-produced mecha suit, but still, like, multiple fights were happening in there. And it's during this moment that part of our initial plot arc is set up. During this conflict, he basically gets to a draw with the Zaku pilot, who turns out to be a beautiful Zeon lady.
Gasp.
Yes. Lady Aina. And basically in space, because a lot of the show is set on the ground, but this first episode takes a lot of place in Earth orbit with a lot of space junk and stuff. And like they basically have to work together to survive before they run out of oxygen and get rescued by their various factions, and sets up them doughy eyes and romance vibes. Ugu. But then he gets to Earth, and you basically get to meet the rest of his squad. There's the member of his team who he actually bailed out in orbit. It was the pilot who was fighting that Zaku that he helped out, who is known as the Grim Reaper because 2 of his previous teams have been wiped out to the last man, him. Like, he has been the sole survivor of 2 previous squads, and he has lots of survivor's guilt and shit. But because Shiro saved his life and, like, puts up with, all the rumors about him, he's, super loyal to him. And then there's also their senior NCO, Karen Joshua, who is a tanned redhead who is buff. She's cool. I like her a lot. And she kind of, acts as the experienced one. She's been on Earth for several months by the time everybody else is assigned to 8th MS team. And has some decent experience fighting, but she's a lot of no nonsense. What is this newbie commander going on about and stuff? But she's got her hidden depths. They also have a couple of support staff. They have a command truck, which is a hovercraft, like a classic hovercraft with little turbofans. I am totally stealing that design for something in Singularity War. It's really rad. But they have a couple of guys in the back there. Elidor, who's got great ears. He's great with the sonar setup and comms, but also he mostly just wants to fuck around. And our other new guy who's introducing the character. So, you've got this whole montage with the squad that I really... And that's basically how it is. So aesthetically, it's very pleasing. And just in general, like, watching this fight, you get to see all those vibes between the different characters very late in the show when they've got their synergy. And just like I said, this fight really stuck me in, though, because this is not just in this fight, but overall, this series is really good in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's 4x3 still, if you're watching it online. It's all in traditional hand-drawn animation. It's got kind of that slightly, I don't know what you call it, but you know it when you see it, animation that has been very much hand-drawn and not digitally touched up, A
lot of rotoscope?
Classic animation. But because it is only it was an OVA and it's only 12 episodes, the animation is very tight. I have seen some clips from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Some of that animation is not very tight. It can be very, very loosey-goosey. There's some rough edges to that show, despite it being so groundbreaking. 8th MS team is very tightly animated most of the time. And like all of these, the fight, the choreo and the animation in the fight scenes is really, really smooth, really great. Lots of detail, lots of motion. Because a lot of the time these guys are fighting on the ground, they do so much effort in the animation to show you just like what the scale of these machines are.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's the thing I love the most about 8th MS team is the focus isn't on the Gundam, it's actually on the team, and you get to see a lot more things from their perspective than the Gundam perspective.
Yes. There's a lot of work out of the cockpit, and even in the cockpit, there's a lot of focus on like what they're thinking and doing that's not just the action. And in fact, like I said, literally, there are a couple of characters who are almost never in Gundams. They're constantly riding in the command truck offering support, But the writing is really good. It's all like very solid and stuff. And I have to say, it is my understanding that 8th MS team is probably the farthest up on the real robot scale Gundam goes and stays in terms of overall series. And that's not to say that many Gundam series are not more on the real robot angle. If you guys don't know, in the Japanese mecha anime world, there's usually a sliding scale. Real robot versus super robot. Super robot goes back to like the 60s and 70s, where the robots are basically just magical. They can do whatever they need to do for the plot. They're not necessarily bound by physics. They don't have clearly defined like powers or limitations. And there are still like super robot shows in modern time. Like I would argue that I'm pretty sure Big O is much more on the super robot sides. The robot just does the thing.
It's showtime.
Whereas Real Robot is very much the like, and I'm pretty sure Gundam coined this term. Like, I remember the other day, Kojima was going on a long talk about how Gundam like crystallized the idea of the giant robot as a weapon of war, not as like some miracle device to fight kaiju and stuff, right?
Right.
Pretty interesting one, but even so, depending on what series of Gundam it is and how far you are in the system, Gundams themselves can move very quickly on that sliding scale. For instance, I would argue that G-Witch starts out already pretty high on the super robot scale normally. The Gundam Aerial is, literally the only Gundam that exists because Gundams are very specific. It's a one of its kind mobile suit. It's powered by like a sentient AI that's really advanced, and it has access to like high level tech that sometimes you don't even start with in Gundam series. It's got a traditional shield, but the shield also deflects beam weapons, and the shield is also the little remote drone things, the bit staves as they're called. All of its weapons are beam weapons type stuff. Like, for a Gundam series, that's very advanced. For comparison, 8th MS team, while the team does start with beam sabers, which are like supposed to be very experimental, they do not get ranged beam weapons until like the last mission. And even then, some of them are still using their like solid shot rifles and heavy rifles and stuff. And again, talking about the like focus on the characters and the Real Robot angle, in that fight scene I linked earlier, there's literally a moment where Shiro is like, damn, out of ammo. Like he empties the mag in his Gundam's assault rifle and has to go to reload, but his enemy won't let him reload. He's pretty good.
Wait, I'm not done yet. Fuck.
We're fighting an ace. Oh my god. So yeah, like while I appreciate Super Robot series and I appreciate that arms race-esque escalation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot in Gundam. That happens in another of my personally favorite mecha series, Code Geass. Code Geass is very much about that arms race effect, The early Nightmare frames in Code Geass are very but simple. They're not that advanced at all, other than the fact that they come with giant robot roller skates and the grappling hooks that I love. Love mecha with grappling hooks. Don't ask me why.
I just love grappling hooks.
Nah, it's cool. Yeah. Just make it bigger. It's very cool. And then, the final version of the final battle between the Gurren and the Lancelot in Code Geass is like, we have giant glowing energy wings and like 5 kinds of beam weapons, and, we're punching at the speed of sound and whatever. Like, very bullshit, but it took 2 seasons to build it to there. 8th MS team doesn't really get that far. The most advanced thing is there is, a Xeon 1 mobile armor in it with like a big, powerful beam weapon. But they properly build up even to that. That is like a super advanced prototype they are testing over the course of this series until it reaches its, final form. And you get to see a lot of the struggles they go through. And also, I posted a very funny screenshot on my Twitter of when they're starting it up one time where they list all the different systems that are turned on in the end. And there's some very funny stuff in there. There's the DirectX software development kit is in the list, as is one of the old AMD drivers. It's very funny. But like the series itself is very grounded, very reasonable, and it's got a lot of stuff I like in mecha shows. And all in all, like, it's just so well produced. Like I said, the animation is really good. Because it's the 90s, the soundtrack is like all orchestral, with a little bit of like synth touches here and there, and it's very, very good, like very appropriate all the time. And there's even decent use of classic mid-90s J-pop type stuff, city pop, for both the OP and a couple of insert songs. The OP, by the way, is apparently very well known. Like, it still ranks on polls of like people's favorite Gundam openings to this day. Apparently, this is what I read, and it's pretty solid. But like Lucky said earlier, and I brought up, it's very much a character study. Like, obviously, the giant robots are part of this storytelling, but they are not the focus. The focus is not to make, for the protagonist anyway, to like achieve a better, more powerful robot. Our protagonists don't even really get customized mechs. Like, yes, technically Shiro's model is referred to as the Easy 8 eventually, because at one point he gets it like almost completely scrapped and they have to rebuild it from the ground up so it looks different. Also, so Sunrise can sell you new model kits. And at another time, Karen's Gundam gets its head punched clean off by an enemy mobile suit, and they have to replace it with a GM head as opposed to a Gundam type head. But that's like field repairs, right? Like, it's not a cool upgrade. It's shit. We don't have a head for this robot anymore. What do we got to lying around? You know, lots of cool stuff like that.
That's the thing I really like. It really feels like you're actually in a fucking war. You know, you have to worry about supplies. You have to worry about your parts. You have to worry about things don't just come flying in on trucks for you to fix things. It's like Jesus.
The environment is such a big part of the show. In the second episode, but when Shiro does his first mission on Earth, he's still wearing his like classic Gundam ass spacesuit pilot suit. And Karen even says, "Oh, Commander, you're gonna be sweating in that," and he is. Like, he gets lost and separated from his unit because they do a night fight in the jungle, which is very tense. And eventually he's like, fuck, he like strips down to just like his shirt sleeves because it's hot in there. In another episode I mentioned they go to the desert and they have to like stop and do maintenance because they're getting sand in the joints of their mobile suits, you know? Like, and that just adds so much to this atmosphere. And honestly, it's the same with like the way the war is fought. Like, obviously, you know, if you know a little bit about Gundam, you probably understand that, you know, in the classic timeline, the Principality of Zeon, they're very fashy.
Very.
They have very, like, you know, Third Reich Germany or Soviet Russia-esque, like, bright uniforms and big epaulets and stuff, you know. And they literally have a salute, which is Zig Zeon. That is given in the show at least once. You know, shit like that. And generally, they are not considered to be cool guys. On camera, they do some war crimes. They do quite a few of them. They occupy civilian villages. Yes, no, this is technically, I believe, parts of 8th MS Team overlap with certain parts of the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. It's still the original part of the timeline. So we're very early. Like I said, beam weapons are very experimental. Most of the Gundams and other mobile suits can't even free fly in atmosphere. They have like at best jump jets to like hover and maneuver. But yeah, no. Like on screen, Zeon, like I said, they occupy villages and you know, take their resources. They, you know, engage in, you know, various raids and stuff. At one point on camera in a flashback, you see like why Shiro is very upset at Zeon, and I think this wasn't depicted on screen in Mobile Suit Gundam, was described, but basically he is part of an attack that Zeon does against a orbital habitat. And what they show on screen is Zaku busts in through the pressure hull. There's like hard vacuum contact, so air is getting sucked out, and then fires bright green gas that kills everybody. Shiro only survives because he was wearing a spacesuit at the time. And like, yeah, nope, that's pretty bad. Using chemical weapons in a hard sealed environment, it's bad. It's bad news bears. But throughout the series, you also get the impression that like Zeon does have some legitimate complaints about the Earth Federation. Like, they're not great guys either. Obviously, like, our heroes are Feddies, as they call it. By the way, I should say, I did, because I watched the original clip dub, I did watch the whole series dubbed. The dub is pretty good, considering it's the mid-90s. Like, the dialogue is a little stilted at times, and I think that's just because they had less tools in, like, editing and scripting, so they got to play around with the mouth flaps a little bit more than you do these days. And some of that could just be that I think overall, like, there's no amount of sub versus dub that would change this. Because it is an OVA that's only 12 episodes, I feel like the plot parts are a little fast-paced. Like, they need to get you from point A to point B, you know, the entire story arc in 12 episodes, and they know it. So, they are not afraid to do, like, really sudden, you know, characterization moments or, you know, really fast, like, all right, we're done with that operation. We're moving to the desert. Just, we're there. We're in the desert now. Because we got plot stuff we want to talk about here. Like, and it's okay. It's just like, if you're looking for like a slow burn, steady story, this is not that. This is very much like big vignette slices of this war that tell, you know, the individual characters' arcs. But like I said, the Federation is not super well portrayed either, you know? A lot of the fellow MS pilots are just assholes to 8th. You know, at other times they are engaged in operations that are like, you know, definitely suicidal. Both sides, both the Federation and Zeon, do not get along well with the partisans. There are like, you know, literal guerrilla fighters living in the jungle whose land this is, that the two factions are fighting over, that don't get along with either, at least until Shiro starts to like extend some personal effort and actually like communicate with them on a one-to-one basis. Hearts and minds, guys. It's important.
It is.
And like one of the guerrilla rebels turns into a recurring character. But once you get towards the end of the series, as they're like trying to like wrap up this conflict, like the Feddies do get like real nasty. Not the first boss, but the like second, the higher level commander we get. He's introduced first when after one of Shiro and Ina's reunions, they have a legitimate question about Shiro's loyalty. They're like, "Hey, you've been consorting with an enemy pilot. Are you still cool?" He asks himself, you know, the straight up question like, "Soldier, can you still fire at the enemy?" And Shiro has to say, "I don't know." And he does like actually start, again, talking about the characterization, he does actually start to agonize over like whether or not he can pull the trigger, knowing that a lot of Zeon's guys are just guys. They're just pilots like him. But also some of them are huge douchebags, so it's okay.
That's usually my take.
But like that commander starts like doing a lot of bullshit, like literally ordering his men into obvious traps because he wants the nuclear reactors in their Gundams to go off and just flatten the Zeon base because we can't use nuclear missiles. But even then, like, one, he totally gets his comeuppance, but also it's played as a more like pragmatic kind of villainy. Like, yeah, the Federation does some war crimes too, but usually they seem to be doing it only in response to just how cartoonishly evil Zeon can be at times. Like, the main antagonist, like, he is a terrible boss. He is, like, poisoning people and blowing up his own dudes and, like, abusing a ceasefire to test out his super special beam weapon. Like, it's bad news all around. And ultimately, I think that goes to the point of this series, which is, like we said, about those smaller characters. It is about the team and the individual pilots, and they're just kind of swept up in this war. And yeah, no, it's just a really solid series, and it's like, it's so good.
It's
like
good.
I said, I binge watched it over 2 days, basically, within 24 hours.
No, like, I think it's like, I think G Gundam is like still my top Gundam, but I think 8th MS Team is like my top realistic Gundam. Like, it's the best Gundam war story.
Yeah, G Gundam is special.
It's special. All right, it's special. I think 0083 is also pretty up there, but not quite as...
Yeah, I've heard that that's a pretty good one. I need to check out some more stuff. I need to find some more that are in the... Like, my understanding is that 8th MS Team was, like, the most they've gone to that war story angle, but there are a few pieces that are a little bit more like that. I definitely want to track those down, because, like, honestly, in general, I've always been open to Gundam because Gundam is a kind of like sci-fi mecha franchise that has the kind of tropes I like. Like, I really liked IBO because, like, I feel like they very honestly asked those questions about the child soldier problem a lot of mecha shows have. Like, they're just like, yeah, no, we're talking about it. It's bad, but it's what it is. But they also tackled issues of, like, you know, Martian independence and, like, you know, the you know, corruption of the system and kind of stuff. That one didn't really end, you know, the way I would have liked it to end, but it did end, and it had some stuff in there. We had to take our small victories. Like that one asshole getting crushed. And honestly, I think IBO was kind of, in the second season, was kind of marred by a problem that happens to a lot of shows that get 2 seasons, where they had a little bit of, you know, they had some rebellion in the writer's room about how exactly the series was going to end. I think the directors originally wanted to go with a much more bleak kill 'em all ending. And the writers were kind of like, no, we have to have, like, some hope. And I think that was because specifically the first season ends with you think a lot of characters get killed and they don't really get killed. Like, we have this super special enemy, you know, mobile suit boss fight that looks like it scratches off a couple people, but they live through with just some minor injuries. So, you know, I guess the writers felt like they had to earn their cred by killing more named characters. Which I personally don't agree with. Like I said, 8th MS team is great. I can tell you, I mean, it's nearly 30 years old at this point. You know, being from the mid-90s. But, like, I'll give you a slight spoiler, but despite their attempts to telegraph it a little bit, none of the major characters do, in fact, die. There's some real risk. There's some nail-biters. And if you don't remember I said that, you might be concerned for them at points. And certainly, minor characters are humanized enough and shown their face enough that you feel bad for them when they bite it. But I think it reveals that you can have a very poignant story about wartime and stuff, and you don't have to, like, punch home that last little, like, depressing bit of, like, and then he died. That guy you like is dead. You know. The guy that we like is dead on paper because he was not able to return to either faction because they both hated his guts because they sucked.
Whoops.
They're bad and dumb.
Dumb bad.
Don't poison your entire research team's champagne, and don't laser beam hospital ships. These are real things that happened in 8th MS team. Don't do them. They're bad. Don't bully your sister into committing war crimes with a gun. Both bully her with a gun and the war crimes with a gun, just to be clear. I know that was ambiguous. Both of those things technically happened. But yeah, IBO still hits some heavy hitting stuff, and G-Witch is going kind of the same way. Like, I really like the fact that they have this toroidal habitat and they're doing like this really interesting stuff with the set pieces, you know. Mm-hmm. But again, G-Witch is very interesting because, well, obviously Gundam is the origin of that meme you may have seen, the Wow Cool Robot meme. Where basically somebody draws a Gundam shooting a beam that says war is bad over the head of an audience member who is just like, wow, cool robot. That's Gundam. Like, both literally that meme is Gundam, but also that is actually what the Gundam series is about. It is, generally, Gundams are usually about, damn, dude, war sucks. It's not a good look all around. It is sometimes necessary, but there are things you could do to make it less shitty. And people don't do those sometimes. It sucks. It's bad. But like, G-Witch is definitely in a weird place where it's not actively about a war yet. It is definitely about war economies.
Like, I'll say it's about conflict.
Yes, there's definitely conflicts. There is armed conflict in it. And the mobile suits featured in it are supposed to be weapons of war, but there's not actually a war going on for them to fight in as far as we know yet.
Yeah.
I do believe we are scheduled for 2 cores with G-Witch. So like I said, I'm personally betting there will be some kind of shenanigans that's going to suck all these characters out of their school setting into the real pants war, probably at the halfway turn. But we got a lot of other bullshit to get through, which is still like very interesting, and I really like G-Witch. It's just like it's interesting to like be watching that current series, and then like I said, I pull up 8th MS Team and I binge all of it, and I'm like, oh god, this is so good. Like, if I were to play like more mech themed video games or even like tabletop games and RPGs, I would definitely want to run or play in something very much in a tone like 8th MS Team. Like I said, super robots are cool. But just that down and dirty, this is just kind of a war. Like, again, you know, talking about like the rating and stuff, a lot of times in 8th MS Team, they're doing basically combined arms, right? Like, the mechs are important, but they are just one part of this great operation. They show on screen, you know, armored vehicles like tanks and APCs. They show jets, actually, a lot. On both sides, like the Earth Federation uses jets, and like the Zeon are also shown using like attack helicopters and jets too. Like, it's you know, and there are bunkers and stuff. It's not just giant robots, you know, smashing into each other. So like, that's just kind of a personal, you know, like I said, I just, it's so much my aesthetic, so much my big thing. And just it's so well produced. Like the sound design is so cool. Like it has all those classic Gundam sounds you want. But I talked about how like first episode is set in space, right? They do this thing where they will like muffle or cut off sound effects to like give you that, you know, empty vacuums type thing. They don't quite go full no sound in space, but they definitely add a little extra spice and just it's so good. It's just really well produced. So check it out if you want to. And you know where you can check it out, funnily enough, is on Hulu. I don't know why, but that's the place to stream it. They've got the rights to 8th MS Team specifically. And while I have not caught up on Bleach, that does mean that I did get I was available for a free trial of Hulu, and I have to remember in November to switch to the bundle with Disney Plus because that will save me like $5. But I was eligible for a 3-month trial with Hulu, so I did sign up for that, and I can now catch up on my 1,000-Year Blood War that way. And I will, when I feel like it.
God, I haven't watched 8th MS Team recently, but I watched it back when it was actually aired. Was it on Toonami or Adult Swim?
Oh, it's got to be. Unless it was censored for TV, it has to be on Adult Swim.
It was probably on Adult Swim.
Because, like, let me... I will also spell this out for you. Speaking of watching shows and living with your grandma, don't do that with MS Team. There's not, like... it was the 90s, so there's not, like, a lot of gratuitous language, but there is some cussing. There are some nipples in it. You know, it's again, it's an army show, so there's a lot of like topless pinup ladies in the background and stuff.
Hell yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of fan service nudity. There is a little bit, but it's mostly just part of the storytelling. Like at one point I said, like the Gorilla Girl character Kiki, who is apparently 17, by the way, internet. Keep your eye on that one. She does like bathe in a waterfall naked, and Shiro's just like, haha, I'm lucky. Oh wait, she's got a gun. Fuck. The consequences of my actions. Like, it's fan service, but our protagonist gets dobbed on it for it pretty fast. So it's definitely the kind of like pay it forward, and that's like the last time that really happens in the show. And like I said, like we've got major female characters who are not the protagonist. Like Karen doesn't have much of a character arc, but she is ever present and like is really not that sexualized. Like Elidor hits on her, but mostly she just hangs out in her tank top, showing off her big biceps and, you know, taking names, killing dudes, being sensible. I like her a lot. She's cool. But like there like I said, there is some blood, some guts. It's Gundam. Some people do die really badly. Some people eat shit in a terrible way. Like I said, there's that on-screen moment where some guys are killed by some nerve gas right in front of Shiro, and it is not pretty. I mean, yeah, there's no detailed nudity in the hot spring. I feel like that's more of a character moment for our budding romancers. Like technically Aina is topless, but there's no detail in the scene. And there's a lot of like emotional relationship concept going on there that like I was not busy looking at people being naked. I was thinking about like, what does this mean for their relationship and their, you know, are they having a human conversation about their wants and needs, guys? But yeah, no, it's not. It's Hulu explicitly says it is rated TV MA. You do not want to necessarily watch this, you know, in a crowded kindergarten.
I might have to actually go out like out in our living room and actually watch it, because we do have Hulu Disney Plus. It's just out in the living room.
Yeah. I do believe Hulu does have a built-in watch party feature, so apparently you can do some fun time that way. I don't know how that works. I saw it in the list of things. Like they when I signed up for the free month, they really wanted to me. I mean, it's true. There is a hot spring. That is kind of funny. That becomes a plot point later, though. They figure out how to use, energy melee weapons to melt ice and stuff for survival, so we don't die. Because Shiro has frostbite at that point. Again, the environment is such a big deal. It's so cool. The series is really good. Go watch it. Like I said, it's on Hulu. If you happen to have your Hulu membership because you're catching up with Bleach or whatever. And I'm not going to commit to it, but if I'm going to pay for the Hulu, they do have the entire streaming rights to all of the original run of Bleach. I might pick some of my favorite moments fights from that and go back and watch them. I don't think I can actually. Yeah, I'm not ready right now to do what I've done with Naruto at least once and rewatch everything Sans filler arcs with Bleach. But I could definitely cherry pick. And I think that Hulu has a couple of other Gundam stuffs, but not a lot. Let me click over.
If you want to watch a pretty decent Gundam thing, you should check out Hathaway on Netflix. It's only one
Yeah,
movie.
that's definitely in my
Yeah.
list of things to catch up on now that I'm kind of in that robot-y mood.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got another one of them coming out because I remember seeing a Netflix trailer.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's supposed. I can't remember if it's supposed to be 2 or 3 movies, but yeah, it's supposed to be multiple movies. Hathaway is it's set in the OG, but it's definitely more on the realistic than Super. I think he only gets into the gun like there's some. God, most of it it's just Hathaway just walking around thinking thoughts stuff.
Always a good vibe for when you have, especially for a series like Gundam that has so much history. You can have those kind of moments. Okay, let's see.
And I still love the scene of the mobile suit attack with people on the ground. Just shows how terrifying Gundam mobile suits are when you're just on
a guy.
foot.
Yeah. Always love that kind of stuff. So Hulu's catalog of Gundam is 8th MS Team. They've got Unicorn.
I need to watch
They've
that.
got The Origin, which I think is some compilation reanimation movies of some of the original series. I should probably check that out because they've. Listen. I like classics. I don't know if I got the gumption to go back and watch the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Like I said, I have seen some clips. The animation is rough in some spots. Yeah. They've got Gundam Wing, and Gundam 00, and Iron Blooded Orphans.
Gundam Wing was my first, and boy howdy was it popular back in my day. But now that I look bad at it, I'm like, the show was weird.
Yeah. So, Chad, I'm sure you can, other than IBO, which I've watched all of already, I'm sure you can tell me if any of those other Gundams I named are like really good to check out. But yeah, I need to watch Hathaway and check out some other stuff. And obviously, I'm following G-Witch. We had a very good episode last week. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're doing a lot of things with characters that I like. G-Witch is very interesting because whatchamacallit? I feel like it plays to a lot of themes and suggestions from previous series all over the place, but also does its best to like kind of play with your play with those expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, there's a lot of like everybody's looking for Char parallels everywhere, but we don't really have one of those quite yet. Like, Suletta's mother is wearing the big white mask, but she's not really an antagonist.
I think she's an antagonist, but not to her daughter.
True facts. She got a list. She's got her own machinations, which may negatively impact Suletta because Suletta is an adorable, innocent being who doesn't understand what was going on in the world. She just wants to make friends and go on dates and stuff, get nicknames. And obviously for this latest episode, our first episode antagonist, Guel, got a big, shiny new red mobile suit, which is usually a sign of an antagonist. But at the end of the show, after he gets his ass beat again, he's like, hey, you paid me an honest compliment for the first time in my life. You want to get married? And we're now, I believe, 3 for 3 on ending the episode on confused Suletta face.
Yeah.
I wonder if they can keep that going for the entire series. No, don't actually commit to that, guys. I'm sure you want to do other emotions. It's just very funny. So it's like, oh, I thought he was going to be an antagonist or a rival, but no. He's going to join the main character's harem. I feel like some people are a little spiced because they're like, whoa, does this mean I'm being queer baited right now?
What?
because the show very obviously sets up the Yuri angle very strongly. The opening and ending are all about that. Guys, I'm gonna listen. If you're new to like a lot of anime like this and school melodrama, just because he proposed doesn't mean this is going anywhere. There's like a solid over under that he, lives through the entire series but does not get the girl. He bites it somewhere in the middle of the series, or he goes back to being an antagonist and doesn't get the girl. I don't fucking like. We're 3 episodes in, y'all. Don't say nothing yet. I know that shipping is like, and the shipping mentality is a big part of the fandom for stuff, but sometimes y'all need to cool them. Yes, I've heard War in the Pocket is pretty good. I need to figure out where that might be streamifying. That is another one of the early Gundam OVAs that I believe is pretty short. I think it's only like 6 episodes.
Having this long cook time is weird because I really can't just go off, wander off, and not worry about my thing just spontaneously combusting.
I mean, that is kind of how real life works, you know? You want to keep a little bit of an eye on it, but some stuff takes a while. But all right. That is most of the big things I have accomplished during the week. Anything fun you've been doing during the week?
Well, I did.
Whatever.
I did finally break out my Switch Pro controller, the nice actual controller, not flimsy Joy-Cons. And I have been playing Xenoblade Chronicle 3. I know I said I was gonna play 1 and 2, but I was just like, It's like, I don't want to go back to Xenoblade Chronicle 1 because I haven't played it in like over a year, and I have no idea what the fuck is going on, and I really don't want to go through all that bullshit that I went through first time to just relearn some story beats. From what I understand... Oh, wait, I can get rid of this coffee maker. Now that I have a full-on espresso machine. In my slowly becoming professional kitchen. So I've been having fun with that. I have like 30 hours in that right now. And, the more I play it, I'm just like, yeah, no, this is just a fucking single-player MMO. For good and ill, I'll say. I think I'm like 10 levels over my current main story thing because the game does not prevent me from exploring too far. So I'm just like, oh god, I can't remember the region, but I have, well, I don't really know somewhere far, but I've done a thing in a place, and I'm going to my next place. But then I realized that there's just giant fucking desert off to the side, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go over there. And I've been exploring that area for like the past 10 fucking hours doing stuff. I've died several times. There are some areas that I cannot go because they're not afraid just to put like level 50 monsters in areas, and you're like, yeah, go here if you want. I'm like, fuck you, I will! Because the penalty for dying is just getting warped back to like a landmark or something and, going again. So I'm just like, alrighty. So, but I do enjoy it. It has a bunch of systems. It has a bunch of mechanics. I like the characters, mostly. I still wanna slap Tion or Tion or however the fucking pronounce it. I'm just like, calm down, dude. But other than that, I've mostly been playing a lot of Project Zomboid. As you can tell, I gotta go check on my food now. I forgot about it. I was talking about shit. Please, no burning. You are not burning. Thank God. Let's see here. If I watched anything interesting, no, not really. I haven't really played anything else besides Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Project Zomboid.
Solid.
It is solid. Like I said, I do know that I'll be getting Star Ocean: The Divine Force at some point, but I am basically in no position to play that, as well as I still have DioField Chronicles and Valkyria Elysium to get through. But it'll just go on my backlog.
Yep.
As we do. So not necessarily much on there from me. I am trying to get through more of my light novels, but I haven't necessarily picked up anything new and exciting yet. Once I get through my backlog of those, then we'll see what's new and fresh out there. Although I realized that my list was not actually as long as I thought it was, because at some point I bought 2 copies of the same book, and I'm just all like, wait, now? And they've just been sitting on my pile for so long I can't return one of them. I'm just like, well, shit.
Oof.
Yeah, oof.
Yeah, I need to. And I actually debated it last night, but I was like, nah, it's like 2 a.m. Let's just, watch YouTube and go to sleep. But I need to catch up on my reading because it's getting quite atrocious. Like I said, I have like 3 L5R books to catch up on. And there's like 2 more out there, I think, to pick up as well. They've announced another one by Marie Brennan, The Night of 100 Candles, I think. Sounds pretty good. But also I mentioned a couple times this week, Jim Butcher's son, James J. Butcher's first book has come out. It is also an urban fantasy story about magic guys. And I read the excerpts and it seemed pretty good, so I'm like, yeah, I think I could just pick this one up sight unseen. I mean, it's not even sight unseen. I read an excerpt and it seemed good. So
Also, Axe, just go out there and start searching for books. I don't have every book. There's still like 5 books I'm missing, but I go out and look for them.
yeah, I would just double check for them. Either raid the bookstore again or start checking houses. I found a fucking Woodcraft VHS in a house just recently.
Like Axe, like literally, like I died. I said okay. I went and got the books I was, and like, cause I'm not fucking perfect in everything. I don't have my nimble going. I don't have my reloading going.
I want to say, you say, would you be okay with me grabbing them? Lucky has a safe house. You can't just grab them. That means he has to deliver them to you.
Yeah, no. I'm busy.
It's a slight pain in the butt while we're doing stuff. I appreciate that Lucky is willing to donate. Like I said, he just threw a bag full of VHS tapes and books at me. It was a book bag. It was funny. But, like, that was just kind of spontaneous. I would just double check our inventory, and if we don't have it, go hunting. Scratch off the notes. You can take notes in character. But yeah, my book backlog is pretty bad. Especially because I just added to it. Like I said, I've been chewing away at that 3-part Cyberpunk series, and
I have no spare books, by the way. I only keep 1 copy of the book because I'm already like at 2 fucking bookcases full of books, and they're almost
yeah, we do
filling.
the same thing. We have trashed all our Duke books several times. But funnily enough, given the Singularity War, which is something that I am still on and off smashing through, adding bits of lore and weapon stuff here and there, trying to work on stuff. Gibson did a series of books in the 90s, which I believe is called the Bridge Trilogy. And they're kind of interconnected. But they're called that because part of their setting involves a kind of like post-apocalyptic or post-collapsed San Francisco after a big earthquake. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of funny because I wasn't really familiar with those books because they are newer and I don't think are as famous as Neuromancer. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that because obviously, for our Sprawl, which, by the way, the game The Sprawl is named after the Sprawl trilogy, which includes Neuromancer and the other game books in that series again. But for the Sprawl game we primarily ended up setting it in the, mega city San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm like, oh, well, we can get some crossover there. I might be able to see some fun ideas there. And the second book in that series, some people probably have heard of. It's called Idoru, or Idolu. And it's actually like has to do with like cyberpunk Japan and some other interesting things and some detective work.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just like, oh yeah, I should catch up on these. I don't remember what the third one is called. It's Virtual Light, Idoru, and then one more. But they're all called, I believe, the Bridge Trilogy. And I'm just like, oh, shoot, that sounds really relevant to my life right now. I should probably look at picking those up sometime as well, because that's right where I'm at right now. And I don't mind the inspiration. That can really like drive me to write more. Because like I think it was off stream, but it might have been on stream. Axe asked about like me working more on Jack of all trades because I had stalled that one out a little bit to smash out Gensakai really quick. Which we had a fun time. That was a very good session.
I enjoyed it.
we may or may not talk about it more. I don't know if there's a lot to dissect there.
I think there's a little bit to dissect.
Just some fun times. You should go listen to it. It's out now. But I kind of pivoted away from writing Jack of all trades, especially with that, and so I've been like, I know my outline of the story, and the reason why I stalled out was because I'm doing the usual thing you happens with writing. You usually have well, at least for me, but I hear a lot of writers talk about this. Usually, you've got a very concrete beginning. You know what your start point is. Probably know your basic main characters and stuff. And very often, usually in my mind, I can piece together the climax. Like, I know what I want the plot to result in, and usually some, like, major scenes and arcs and stuff. And then it's the middle, the connecty bits that's like, okay, that's where the work is. So I'm in that stage with Jack of all trades right now. And I kind of thought of some ideas to do that bridgy stuff after I did another reread and also technically another editing pass because I still caught errors and improvements I could make. And I wrote a little bit to the start of chapter 6, but I still have not been able to go back into full swing buckle down writing yet. So some more inspirational reading is probably good on that angle. Like I really get fueled by vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have started writing some kind of mecha-based short fiction immediately after watching 8th MS Team, but I did not because I have other shit to do. But that definitely got me vibing for man, when's that Front Mission remake come out? Give me that shit. When does FromSoft announce a new Armored Core game? Which probably, by the way, would be if they are actually going to announce it anytime soon, because they are allegedly having filling positions to work on it. Probably at the Game Awards this year. Because I did not realize this, but apparently From has a habit of announcing new games or new info at the Game Awards. And makes sense. The Game Awards are usually good to their games. I'm not unconvinced still that Elden Ring's not going to be Game of.
It's probably
though certainly I think God of War Ragnarok will be a very strong contender because it's coming out much sooner towards the actual voting period. So that'll probably be fresher in people's minds. But Sekiro won Game of the Year one year and some other stuff. So that's probably where we're going to see some vibes. Some people have said that it might just be DLC for Elden Ring, but again, I think where the internet is reasonably certain they are working on a new Armored Core, and I'm down to clown with that. I'm ready for some of that action. Just like I know that mecha anime is in kind of a weird spot sometimes. Unfortunately, as cool as G-Witch is, I don't think it broke the top 10, hottest series on Crunchyroll this week. Actually, no, it wasn't even Crunchyroll. It's all anime because they got Bleach on there. But that's still, that is some rough competition.
Mm-hmm.
Chainsaw Man melts people's minds, and the hype around the return of Bleach to the small screen is legendary. That's a very unique situation you can't really be fucking with. So I think a lot of let me pull up that list. I think a lot of those series are continuation seasons as well, which is kind of an unfair vibe. Yeah, My Hero's new season is 6. You've got the 3rd season of Mob Psycho on there as well. There are a couple of other the second half of the new season of Spy X Family. So a lot of this is riding hype off stuff. I think you could even argue the remake of Urusei Yatsura, that's another up there because that's got previous hype. But giant robot video games are also kind of in the vague area. Though I do believe the new Gundam Shooter is supposedly pretty good. I will definitely be picking that up because I think it's free when they actually do the console port later this year. It'll be interesting. But yeah, so the me trying to get my vibe juice on so I can write more is important. Though I have actually been thinking about it because I just realized we are about to go all the way through October. And I have not in any way contrived to run a spooky game. Not that there might not be some spookums to come in Gensik. But depending on how we do this session, I may actually talk to you guys if you want me to do Delta Green next time instead. Yeah, Axiom just said, did you run back? Because I am like 2/3 of the way through writing my next Delta Green. Well, the first half anyway. It's deliberately a 2-part story with 2 locations, but I learned some of my pacing lessons. But like I said, I reskimmed that and I'm like, I'm most of the way through this. I could probably remember my plot and wrap this up. If you guys were interested in that, that would be, you know, a good spooky season. If not, I'll just write more Gensekai. Because I'm pretty sure we're gonna get through all of my playtesting parts this time. But yeah, we can talk about some Gensekai stuff then if you want to.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah, you're bipping zombies.
Had to check my 6 there real quick.
It is important. Because, you know, if you be firing guns, they be coming at you.
Oh, shit. Oh, you ripped my clothes, you bitch!
Yep, I'm gonna just swing up from the... right away. They like to do that.
Alright, do a quick clear.
Sure. I guess it's just a certain range. We're not really sure when and why they decide to break into a sprint, but they do that sometimes.
It is a range. Once they get in a certain distance of you, they will lunge.
And if you want to be a madman, you can make them always be that speed.
No.
But that is terrifying.
It is. Ugh.
Well, we'll see what happens. But yeah, Gensekai.
Gensekai.
Had a good session.
We had a very good session, what I think. A lot of like, we didn't, like, I want to say we didn't accomplish anything big, but we did a lot of little stuff, but enough little stuff that it made its own story, and it never actually, like, slowed down.
And I mean, well, while you did not yet do the big one, because I did telegraph that was the big one, I was like, hey, if you, maybe not do the... I know you guys were kind of jumping around everywhere, but maybe don't do the technical big, long dungeon crawly part when we're, like, 2 hours into this already.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, as a GM, I'm not afraid to telegraph, like, hey, this is the slightly more detailed one that might involve the combat and such, and the exploration. As opposed to the stuff you did do, which was... and I remembered a distinct thing that Aaron brought this up last time we broke for playtesting, that, you know, bringing up more encounters in the social field. Like, while you guys did have some, like, socializing and negotiating, the bulk of what we did for our first run of the playtest was much more in the, like, active dungeon crawling, hunting, you know, marks and you know, classic bosses and, you know, investigatory chasey type stuff, right? Like, there was some social interaction and there was some social skill rolls, but it was not as heavily on, like, purely social encounters. Whereas, while I did leave it open-ended that you could have solved a couple of the things you guys did during the session by just, you know, reaching over and thumping those people, it was also perfectly valid for you to be presented to, like, just social it out. And I think we actually, like, talking about how you didn't feel like we necessarily did anything big, and I do kind of agree. Like, I deliberately wanted to kind of keep these kind of small and manageable, right? You know, just kind of not quite filler, because I think there's a lot of characterization stuff going on here, but definitely lower stakes stuff to kind of, you know, pad out some time, get everybody back into the swing, and, like, set up for stuff I want to bring back. For you know, bigger, either that, like, plot stuff or encounters or challenges or whatever. But I definitely feel like, as opposed to our usual modus operandi, I feel like everything ran very smoothly. Part of that, I think, is because at no point did we try to split the party at all. Like, I didn't try to split you. I didn't try to, like, put you other places. And you guys were pretty good about being like, well, I want to go here. Does anybody want to go anywhere else? And everybody was like, no, we'll just stick with you. It's on the way. We'll be fine. Like, nobody felt pressured to go out and do everything on their own. Like, at one point, you guys do all technically split up to go do your own skill checks, but that was for the purpose of the skill checks, and then you guys immediately reconvened.
Yeah.
So, like, I think our gameplay flow was a lot better because of that, and just, I want to say, big shout out to all the players, because I understand sometimes this is harder, but I feel like all of you did a good job of when you weren't in character involved in a scene or didn't want to be involved in a scene, like just in character taking a step back and letting the other characters kind of do that part, and then when either your plot points came up, you inserted yourselves, or you just sat out the whole time.
I think am I in someone's house? This is way too much shit.
Is that Bart's house? I don't think so, though.
Wait,
He has a lot of storage.
who dat?
Is this a place Aaron's crashing in?
Aaron, is this your place?
We remember we can type in-game and stuff. But yes, overall, I think like that worked a lot smoother than actually splitting the party, so everybody got screen time. Just letting you guys like be present in a scene and then not feel like you had to physically be present, like be directly present in the scene until you were like, oh, I have that skill, I can get involved now, or oh, I care about this plot point, kind of a thing. So yeah, it was just kind of, we just had a really good flow,
Maybe no, because I think Marv's place is closer down south.
I also think he said he found a fairly bigger place. I don't know, it could just be that this place has been sitting here gathering loot.
I guess I'll take
It does seem like a lot, but
I'll take it, I guess.
I mean, I think I saw Marv type something earlier. You can take a screen cap and see if it's his place.
Let me do that real quick. Let me see.
It is true. It is kind of like a lot of that classic CRPG stuff where, like, usually you have one or two focal characters, whether they're the main PC or just whoever is involved in the quest, and then the others just kind of sit back and, like, throw out comments. But it worked pretty well. And I double-checked, and nobody seemed to feel like they had been, like, left out at points. You guys just kind of, like, naturally went to the fore or back as needed. Had your moments, your bits, your bobs. And in general, a lot of these were just open-ended social stuff, and I just kind of let you guys go, and you kind of naturally just solved problems, which was good. That's, I think, how it should be a lot of the time,
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to necessarily telegraph specific solutions, but you guys were able to do stuff that, made people, amicable to you. And I would occasionally introduce, we have a lot of fun times with stuff. We did occasionally, like, introduce things, like I would specifically call out, like, if you wanted to do this, it's this check. But if you don't want to do that, you can do some other check. And there was some stuff that, like, I wrote in case you guys asked about that just didn't come up. Like, for instance, Afra Eld, she mentioned that she owed some money back home, You guys just came at her with a pragmatic solution, like, well, are they gonna, like, break your legs right away? And she's like, no. It's like, okay, relax, go outside, take some you time, just get the book back later, it's fine. But for instance, I did actually jot down, like, how much money she has left to, like, make to pay off her debt. That's not a lot. It was, like, 250 gold. But it's enough that's, like, that's decent, chump change for, average people, but something you guys probably could have bashed together. But you guys did not necessarily ask about that number, and it didn't come up, and you still solved it, And I think it, like, worked out. And obviously, like, there's something to be said for, the third book, like, you Lucky especially really took that with gusto.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was me and my absolute love of romance.
Yeah. But hey, that's why I set that up. It's supposed to be kind of like dramatic and a little bit cliche, you know, like including the part where I'm like, when I introduced the character of like the other guy his chick is interested in, I was like, okay, what's a good name? Hesk Ferrante. What does he do? He's a cavalier. He's just come back from war. He's so dashing and handsome. Like, you know, I bought into it too when I wrote it. Yeah. Leona and Axe's character was very into it. And it's kind of funny, like, out of character, like, Rion did a really great job of playing the straight man to Porter there, because he's just like, okay, all right, okay, give me the book.
Well, he had to pick up the books because Porter completely forgot about it.
Yeah. No, and it made sense and it worked out. And, like, I think everybody had their kind of moments, you know. At different times, you guys can be, you know, alternately play straight man and so on there. So there's stuff there. There's even more alternate solutions there that you guys also did not go for. I think this technically this is like taking a variant off a plan that I wrote in my notes, but you know, there was other stuff like you guys could have like done research on like psyops to the other guy and like, you know, tried to figure out by distracting him with some other relationship or, you know, learning about the girl's family and stuff. But it's fine. It works out, and I hope we have a fun time next time as well. But we probably will. That one, like I said, will be a little bit more like investigatory, and you guys get to like explore and poke things, kind of a stuff, and you know, actually probably definitely fight things. Not that I'm telegraphing or anything. But I do like to leave you possibly aware of combat encounters. And I'll have to run an NPC for the guy you're going to bring along.
Yeah.
Luckily, basic NPC stats are pretty good. I'll probably give him like a... he's not supposed to be super strong, so maybe just 2-2. 2 stat, 2 skill. He has a pretty good axe, so it's probably got superior on it. But I get to... I have a lot of fun stuff in my notes, like, even though my NPC backlog is, like, half written. And while I do need to get back to that, I'm kind of like, I don't want to get back into that just yet, because I'm working on other stuff that I want to round out a little bit more. But I will get back to eventually. I've got some fun stuff in my backlog I want to actually throw him out. I mean, I think giving him a 2 in melee is probably very fair. If survival comes up, because you guys are going to actually like take him into the woods probably and stuff. If that comes up ahead of time, I can give him extras, but that actually probably won't come up in a call.
I mean, he's a bug nerd, so I'm expecting maybe some combat, but he can't have like knowledges and stuff.
Yeah, I think I can probably give him like 3 and 2 and any no skills for rolls just off the cuff. That is kind of what he does. And who knows, maybe he's got a basis for survival. His family are supposed to be like into forestry and lumber and stuff. So many names. I'm very glad people like the character names. Though I do want to clarify, since somebody brought it up. The elf you met, River Bindi, technically her last name is supposed to be from the same root as Binder, as in bookbinder. It just so happens that sounds like River Bend, so it's very funny.
Ah, okay.
There's different internal logic there. I get to have fun with elf names because I wrote myself a ludicrous system. Melodious voice crowned in white flowers.
I love that I got her autograph. I think that's the thing I think I like the most about this is, since we're in a major city, Viridius, we are actually, making contact, making friends, getting connections, building reputation. Like, even if we don't, base our entire play out of here, anytime we do, we are strolling through, the Polis League and we stop by Viridius, we have friends we can, call upon and hang out with and stuff.
Yeah, and I know that's something that I believe you have explicitly talked about as something you like in RPGs, and I believe the others also enjoy. So I was like... Because, like I said, I wanted to keep this one kind of compact. You only have, like, a few days before a, major plot thing happens in the story arc. But I did want to give you enough time to breathe, and obviously you guys managed to in basically a day because you didn't do a lot of lollygagging around and did not necessarily fuck up your... managed to get, like, 2 things accomplished in basically a single day. Pretty good.
Mhm.
Means depending on how long the next thing takes, you'll basically have a free day to do all your shopping and prep work and so on.
Perf.
Maybe even a day and a half. Who knows? Who am I kidding? You're probably going to take that half a day to go home and fucking relax. Adventure and job. Hard work. Thirsty work. But obviously I wanted to make sure there was a decent amount of monetary payout. Everybody getting their slice and slip here and there. Splitting up their stuff. But also to throw out, like I said, those narrative benefits, well, obviously you could totally turn the fact that, you guys now have kind of this interesting relationship with, kind of, a diva equivalent, a major soloist for a local theater troupe, You've got her autograph. She knows you. She'd say hi in a Walmart. That's just like a cool little narrative thing. You might be able to turn that into some bonus dice, but I think that's just a nice character building thing, and the extra stack with the autograph and stuff. Honestly, same with like some of the characters you've run into. I don't think you guys decided to do it all because you have an alchemist on staff. But for instance, because she was from Rubia, you guys could have gone to Afrael to help you out with some of the stuff with that throat cure.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't think about that.
If you had so chosen.
Mhm.
Lots of open-ended little things. And like I said, I got to bust out a few things from my backlog of lore I hadn't gotten to yet. I'm very glad it feels like everybody had well, I don't want to say positive interactions, but I think we had a good time interacting with some pixies. It was entertaining, at least.
I loved it.
Yeah. We had a little bit of Fey folk interaction in the first one, but strict circumstance. So this was a little more, open-ended. And like I said, got to play with some of my lore ideas.
You did turn them into little gremlins, but I guess that's what the
Well, yeah, they're pixies. I mean, like, if I'm gonna do a pixie voice, I gotta pitch up here. You talked to 2 different kinds, so they had slightly different attitudes. The house pixies were very much like, not really like house staff, but almost kind of like, the kind of like, I guess I'll say laborer stereotypes. Like they were just kind of like, hey man, boss, we're doing the work. We can't do it without the stuff. Whereas, you briefly talked with some dewdrop pixies who were a little more like, ooh and ah, and hey, you're pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do us a solid? Well, we heard on the grapevine you're cool. You're a cool guy, so. It's a good time. Excited to get to more.
I also enjoy like a little bit of the off the cuff stuff because my character Porter is definitely pushing to get his sick robes, and in the session Porter does a lot of fancy theocratical speaking to what was his name? I don't know. And like I actually really enjoyed that, speaking on the nature of Verna and the temples and all that crazy stuff. I
do have a lot of backstory stuff that is fun to get involved in.
Yeah, no, I like getting involved in that stuff, and I hope to get involved in it more.
The player characters need to remember to write down some of this stuff so they can remember, so I can bring it up.
Oh,
I know Dallas had a couple of problems with like, shit, I want to bring up a thing, but I can't remember the name, and I'm like, that's okay. Write it down next time, because I don't remember either.
Yeah, no, I'm still slightly nettled that I did not write down what we were going to name the free company, the adventuring company.
Yes, that was up and down a theme of the evening. We were like, what the fuck do we call ourselves again? I'm pretty sure we nailed this in, but I think we must have done it on mic but off recording.
Yes, I double checked it because I listened to it and I at one point cut Axe off saying who wanted to talk about it right then. I was like, no, we can wait for it off mic, and I was like, God damn it, me.
Yeah, we did it off. So we stopped the recording, but it was still in the VC because I searched for like every variation of the name in the tabletop chat, and it is not in text anywhere
No.
other than when we brought it up after this break. So it's like, well, shit. That's
Well,
our
fuck.
bad.
Yep.
We've forgotten. Especially with us moving around between like a couple of stuff as I write more material. Even the same for the like wild talents. As you write more material and we take breaks, we need to remember to write some of these things down. Luckily, right now, after only like the 2-session intro, the stuff is pretty light.
Mhm.
But still, it's going to be a thing if we're taking breaks. You have to remember to write down characters, plot hooks, etc.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we will forget them because you won't think about them. But yeah, like I said, depending on how you guys feel on Sunday, I can either probably switch to, working on the next Delta Green thing if you guys feel like the spookum, or I can just write more Gensekai. Because I have plenty of vibes and ideas to go through. This is part of the reason why you guys wanted to go to the Polis League. What? Sneeze number 2. But that was part of the reason why you guys wanted to go to the Polis League, was you thought there were a lot of fun, colorful places and things to visit here with plot hooks. And I'm like, yes, there are. And I think I can hopefully work out, a decent handful of, some light touches on some areas and some more detailed dives on a couple of areas, and let you guys get into some other stuff, and work on maybe a few more, more of the chunkier, quests and explorations, more in line with the first batch of playtests we did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look forward. You can listen to the session we just did last week on YouTube or on our Patreon right now, titled Side Question, with an AKA of stuff. Oof, excuse me. What was it? It was... books, pixie dust, and other childish things. Is what I did it. Okay, good. Views are picking up a little. Let's check FGO.
Yeah.
Views good. Click-through rate still positive. It's slacking off a little as time goes on. Unfortunately, the average view duration is a little below average, but that's because the episode is shorter. There was a decent chunk of dead air that was edited out. And there may be some dead air that's edited out of this, but not that much. This is a good, big, long episode.
Big long.
Yeah, I think I've got everything I wanted to talk about. Like, unless Lucky or chat really wants to prompt me into rambling about, like, character notes from Jack of All Trades, or, like, stuff I'm writing about Singularity War, both for gear and lore stuff. I'm, pretty good on everything I got.
No, I am starting to get hype about the Gensekai Hacked, I will say. I'm not entirely sure, like, how you want to, like, bring that about. It's like, are we just gonna, because I think Dallas said he probably plays something else, but I already know what I'm doing for my character, because I would just play Claymore 2.0, literally.
Yeah. The way I think I would apply that is, obviously I would need to make sure that I've got most of the core systems, like, gear list, make sure I have solidified, like, net rules, and probably, like, done some basic stuff with antagonists and, like, adversary profiles and vehicles and stuff, but I can, continue to write backdrop lore as we go. And it's at some point I think we're just gonna, like, maybe when we hit, like, a good point with, like, the arcs, we're just gonna, like, switch from the Sprawl game and move to the Genesis version, because it's at some point the Sprawl is gonna get too clunky. I have talked to you guys about this, and it's just gonna be like, you guys are going to run out of advancement options on your playbook, and we are gonna, you're gonna have so much money that, you can all retire or buy whatever you want, or we're gonna hit too many clocks are gonna be clear, and it's just gonna be like, writing wise, I'm just gonna be like, So technically, rules is written, like 4 different corporations are actively trying to kill you right now. I'm not really sure how to write around that. So we're gonna hit a breakpoint, and either when we hit that breakpoint, like mechanically or just story wise, when we're we feel like we're in a good place, we'll do a switchover. And also when mechanically the hack is in a switchover. We'll see what's up. And like I said, we'll probably walk through, character creation and stuff. If a lot of people are transferring characters, I will probably give you guys some extra starting XP to pad that out a little, so people can kind of feel their vibes. But we'll see what happens. And obviously, like I said, I have a lot of just from our discussions and from my general thoughts about the genre and just what we've said, I have a lot of fluff thoughts in my head I'd like to eventually get around to putting on in paper. It's just I'm not necessarily doing them all in a particular order. Like, for instance, I've been working my way through like melee and brawl weapons right now. Ranged weapons are mostly done. Unless I come back to some stuff. There's still some iconic weapons to cover. But, like, thinking about descriptions, like, technically, in our real life, there are a lot of, states in the U.S. and a lot of governments elsewhere who regulate, like, you can only carry so long of a knife in public. Oh, a collapsible baton is illegal. But, like, in fitting with generally the vibe that a lot of cyberpunk stories have, which is just, like, while, strictly speaking, better, weapon, gun and whatever controls is probably more authoritarian and oppressive, it feels like with just the light of commentary, of just like whether that's our society getting more desensitized to violence or violent crime rates rising or whatever, like weapons are still very omnipresent. Even CP2077 has this thing, like they have these ads for a series of gun stores called Second Amendment, which, explicitly say the Second Amendment isn't just for rich people, like trying to market, self-defense and stuff because, cyber psychos and shit are out there. And criminals and stuff. And like the vibe I'm trying to get across in the fluff is like, yeah, so knives and batons and stuff used to be regulated more, but in the cyberpunk future where like if you're rich anyway, medical aid is a lot easier. Like if you get stabbed in the lung, you can very easily come back from that. Worst comes to worst, they just give you a new lung, right? And the equivalent of EMTs can make sure that you live that long too. So I just like, in the general opinion, when, cops and private security guards and freelancers even feel like the thing they need guns for is to stop other hostile cyborgs and people in armored exoskeletons and, soulless combat drones the size of, bears, collapsible metal batons and, standard issue combat knives don't really make sense to regulate anymore, right?
No, not really.
So, like, I'm kind of building that into the fluff, Like, not a lot of brawling or melee weapons are restricted, and it's just, while it's not illegal to own them, you will get weird looks. Like, if you're carrying a fire axe or a machete down the street, people are going to be like, what are you doing? But then you're not going to get, like, arrested. Or at least not arrested for that. That's not to say that cops can't still hassle you and be like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? It's mil-spec weapons that are more restricted and, some of the more advanced melee weapon options. And I get to have some fun. There's monofilament swords, of course, but there's other fun stuff. There's a thermic axe. There's a plasma cutter. The plasma cutter is technically a melee weapon, yes, because after a strong debate with myself, I decided not to go full Deus Ex. You do not have man-portable plasma weapons. So the plasma cutter is used as a melee weapon because it creates a jet of plasma that's like a couple of feet long. Yeah, Dead Space is also a classic, but like that's the thing is like in a lot of the RPGs and games that are very fundamental to this, like I said, Deus Ex, even like Human Revolution has a man-portable plasma rifle. I think it's released in like 2025, 2030. It's pretty close. Again, it's slightly all history because the old school Deus Ex was like they deliberately designed classic Deus Ex to have a lot of conspiracy theories or true shit in it to keep it in mind. So it's like definitely alt history stuff, but still. But yeah, so like I put a note in, again, world building. I put a note in the Plasma Cutter description that weapons development is like actively proceeding in there. So there are people trying to prototype, a directed energy weapon that can fire the plasma, more than a couple feet and maybe fire it several meters, or trying to create a quote unquote plasma sword by creating like a C-frame like arc of plasma. But until then, man-portable Plasma Cutter. Be careful. It's kind of heavy and it can burn you. But it has, breach one, burn one. Other fun things. I recently, and I don't think I have other stuff I need to double check, but I gotta be in my bonnet to write the list of weapon mods. It's very extensive.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna go look at that later then.
Yeah, because there's a decent list in the core book. There is a decent list of add-ons in the Shadows of the Beanstalk book. But there's still a couple of obvious things. Like, I don't know why they haven't done this, because it seems like it's a pretty basic mod that people know about, but like, nowhere in Genesis so far have suppressors been handled.
Huh.
Yeah. Even though, despite the fact that they really didn't need to, Star Wars has suppressors, both blaster suppressors and for slug throwers. So I kind of took those I'm going to take those as the model for the cost and stuff. So yeah, there's a handful of things out there. And of course, there are some things that are honestly quite ridiculous. Like, I know that it's just a mechanical holdover from Star Wars, but I find it hilarious that Genesis, by default, in its special attachment thing, it's like, hey, underbarrel flamethrower. And I'm like, this is ludicrous. But I loved Valkyrie Chronicles, so I'm here for it. Sure, we'll put it in there.
Why not?
I put the flamethrower in the weapon list because I, want to talk about, like, talking about kind of, like, our weird society shifts that, like, a lot of weapon systems that probably shouldn't have been approved were used in the Singularity War because it got very messy. The Thermal Axe, for instance, I haven't written that description, but I'm imagining it as, like, that was, like, the Russian Federation's, like, cool power weapon they were designing. It's, a utilitarian axe that has a thermal heating element in it, so it's good for cutting and melting ice and starting fires. But also, boy, it fucks up people real good. Pragmatism. But also murder. But yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of fun stuff. I don't know how much ham I'm gonna go on weapon crafting explicitly, but there should be some effort, at least in that direction, for like at least a simplified system.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the full-blown like chart and different whatchamacallit, like the different flex options and materials that like Gensikai had that I also borrowed from Realms of Terranoth, but like definitely make sure to note like, hey, if you want to build your own gun at home, here's how you do it.
I do want to let people know my power just flickered, and a few seconds later, I heard like the biggest, daddiest thunder I've heard in a long time. So...
Ooh, thunderstorming! I know that one.
Yeah.
That probably means it's a good time. We are at like, almost 4 hours. Probably time to wrap up because you might lose your connection juice there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that one pretty well.
Like, it was literally only a flick, but I'm considering how...
Oh, yeah, I know the flick. I trust me. You play it a little safe, you don't want to accidentally drop the show. You are streaming from your end, so that would be a pretty quick end, so we'll wrap up here to be safe. I am mostly just rambling at this point. But I like to ramble. I don't... I don't always necessarily get feedback on everything, so I feel the need to talk about some of these ideas sometimes to people. And people give me feedback. Okay, all right, anyway. We're wrapping up. Let me stretch my bones a little bit, because we have been here for a while. But I've scratched off my topic list for the day. I will save my notepad document. And I will remind you of the usual outro business. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, be sure to give us a like if you liked it. Click those likes now if you're watching. You've stuck it out with us. Giving them like juice. Click 'ems. If you are new here and haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. and get those numbers up, because I will once again say YouTube is a little weird about it. It is technically saying, as I've said before, that we are at a net loss of subscribers over the last 28 days, but the number is, I think, higher than I've seen it in the past 28 days. So I think we're getting a little lag there, YouTube, on your reporting. But still, give us some subs if you're new here. Throw them bones. Get those numbers up. Someday I'd love to win one of them YouTube plaque awards. Be a lot of effort, though. But, you know, you can help us out. You can leave comments in the comment section down below, or you can join our Discord, link in the video description and on our channel page. Have a fun time in our Discord, talk about things. You want to see all the mods people be making for P5 Royal, because that got released on Steam recently. Do we yammer about that on our games channel? I personally am a little interested in the fact that Atlas has done that thing where they left some cut content in that core file. That's always very interesting to see. So you can keep up with that on our Discord and other places. We do also have social media. We've got some Twitter links in the video description as well. If you wanna, if you wish to engage in the hell that is Bluebird app, you know, sometimes you can get some news and some cool arts from there, and we usually post about stuff on it. Even if you're already subscribed and you know, on our Discord and whatever, you can also still ring that bell for notifications. Just another way to get an alert when we post a new video or when we stream. You know, really cool way to keep track of stuff. Got a few things coming out that you might want to keep an eyeball on. Like I said, streams, new video releases for APs and whatnot. Even got some wanted videos I need to work on scripting over the next couple of days and get those out to y'all. And you can also consider joining our channel memberships. You can get access to membership badges and emotes. You know, it's a low $1.99 per month. Consider firing those up. The emotes are visible not just in live chat, but also in our comment sections and community pages, so it's a fun time all around. Oh, and Lucky did mention that it's all on What's Up, but he did mention it on Let's Talk, but you are looking at picking up your new tablet, so
Yes.
more emotes in the future. More incentive to memberize. And, of course, like I said at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to this show in audio format for as little as a $1 a month or about $10 a year. That also includes all of our other podcasts and our AP audios as well. All of our back catalog, just, you know, $1. At higher levels, you can get access to video releases early, topic polls, and at even higher levels, you can listen to us make our flagship show, Let's Talk FGO, live every week and get on-air shoutouts. And then just in general, it's a really good time for us. It's a great way to support us and so on and so forth. And the last call to action I want to leave you with before we get on out of here, before Lucky's Transformers explode. I also want to put this out there. YouTube has recently updated their phone app with a feature that you can clip and post YouTube Shorts directly in-app from your videos. So if you have any stream moments, whether it's from What's Up, our other live streams, you know, Fail Betrayal, the Prog series, Let's Talk FGO, whatever, that would fit into like a less than 60-second clip, let me know what video and give me a timestamp, and I will look at those moments, and we might actually punch those out into Shorts, because YouTube is investing a lot in Shorts. And if, you know, you guys have something in mind that you think would be like a cool little clip, that, you know, is apparently pretty easy to do. So keep that one in mind. And with that, that's everything I got this week for What's Up Live with Lucky and Omega. With Omega and Lucky. Oh, I was going to, like, switch the first letters, but that doesn't really work with... Like, we can do Lomega, but we can't... Wookie?
Oh, Ookie?
Wookie.
I'm a monkey now.
Anyway, so we'll see you guys next time. And like I said, look forward to the Monday stream. Please don't Requiem.
See you then. Have a good evening, everyone.